Morning. I call this meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors to order. We will start with an invocation by Pastor Griff Vathier, and then if you would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Sovereign Lord God of the universe, as we prepare in this week to observe Passover, Good Friday, and Resurrection Sunday, help all of us to lift up in prayer the elected leadership and citizenry of Mojave County. The weight of challenges, change, and responsibility seems to increase on all of us on a daily basis. We pray as one, citizens and councilors alike, that you would grant wisdom, integrity, justice, and farsightedness to our elected officials. Guide them and ourselves as we determine the future of Mojave County. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A3, 4, and 7. Motion and action to call for an executive session to be held April 17th, 2023 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03 A3, 4, and 7 to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so order. Official business to come before the board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims, or demands. Attorney Esplin.
Nothing to report to the board, thank you.
Thank you. Committee or legislative reports. Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you. The last couple of weeks, I attended the County Supervisors Association LPC meetings virtually, and also the Arizona Criminal Justice Committee meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. I was down at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago, and it is as dysfunctional as you hear. I know they're moving slowly, getting towards that budget. Hopefully they'll be on time, but it's not pretty. I also attended the LPC meeting for CSA by Zoom. And we had our Employee Benefit Trust meeting last week. And it was actually the second. We had to come back because it's very complicated this year. And on behalf of the Employees Benefit Trust, we've been working very closely with our consultant Gallagher and the Mojave County staff to determine and assess the inflationary pressures on the trust's financial health. The trust board met twice, and after exploring multiple scenarios, and in order to preserve the financial stability of the trust, we will be making some necessary but reasonable changes to the benefits and the premiums after multiple years of keeping them unchanged. I want to remind our employees that for the last, I believe, 7 or 8 years, we have absorbed any cost overrides and increases to make sure that our employees didn't have to do that out of their own pockets. But everyone knows we're in a very bad inflationary time, and we are going to have to do something to make sure that we preserve this trust. We will provide a presentation with more information and details either next meeting or the following meeting, depending on people's schedules. I also attended our county picnic, which was on Saturday, and a beautiful day in Bullhead City. It was the first time, I believe, that we've ever done it at Davis Camp, and it coincided with the first annual air show that Bullhead City put on. So we not only had a picnic with music and food, we also got to see this great air show, and it was a great time. I hope more and more employees come. This is all done without taxpayer money. It's just the employees contribute to have this picnic. And I want to thank the picnic committee, which is Kelly Stickrath, Jordan Cummins, Blake Schritter, Kristen Zimmerman, Melissa Ware, and Karen Flanagan. They did an awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The only thing I'll report is I attended, as did Supervisor Bishop, meeting with the Attorney General here in Kingman, talking about the proposed merger of Albertsons and Safeways in the state. They proposed that merger last year, hope to finalize that merger at the beginning of 2024, but the Attorney General of the state was going around having listening sessions to hear from citizens about the possible negative and adverse consequences of such a merger. So it was interesting to be a part of that. Number three, we have, I believe, High Ground on the phone for our lobbyist report. Mr. Ponder, are you there?
Buddy, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead and proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Thank you again for the opportunity. I just wanted to provide a legislative update. Today we are on the 85th day of the legislative session. As you likely know, the session is technically scheduled for 100 days, although we've went well beyond that the last several years. And after about 120 days, the per diem of our legislators drops. I would expect, as Ms. Angus alluded to, based on some of the challenges that they're having in the legislature, that we would go well into June and possibly to the very last day. The budget conversations have begun. Actually, they began a few weeks ago, but maybe a little bit more in haste more recently between both chambers and the governor's office. There was a discussion of a proposal out there a couple weeks ago. Actually, I think it was last week, where House Republicans would be allocated about $20 million of the one-time funding available to the state. Senate Republicans, $30 million. And then all Democrats, including the governor, $700 million. So the workout of that was a little over $1 billion Republican allocations and about $700 million Democrat allocations. The Democrats, understandably, as you might assume, did not take kindly to that proposal. And so they're going to continue working through those conversations. Last week was a week of traditional committees. It was not scheduled to be, but they extended committees for 1 week. You may recall that after crossover week, there were both chambers of the legislature decided they were not going to hold committee hearings. And so they lost a week of traditional committee hearings that week. So they extended for an additional week, which was last week. This week will be the last week to hear bills in appropriations. Those are the only committees that are going to be running. I just wanted to touch on one item that typically is not on our agenda, but I know that we discussed it several weeks ago, and that was House Bill 2808 related to public records requests. That bill was held in the Senate Government Committee and never got a hearing. And so unless somehow it were to be reassigned later in the session, which is very unlikely, it appears that bill will not be going forward this session. I'd also like to note that the governor's office just last Friday, identified April as Water Awareness Month. We did not have forewarning of that, unfortunately, but we are going to take the opportunity to leverage that in our conversations with the governor's office, which I'm supposed to have this week, regarding next steps on water. As I move on into general legislation, we'll just follow along the same bills that we've been discussing for the last couple months. House Bill 2026 on-farm efficiency fund passed out of Senate Appropriations 8-2 and is waiting for a full House vote. I don't see any challenge with that. It's again, we've talked about bills that have dollar amount numbers on them being in the box. I just referenced what allocations might be afforded to individual members of the legislature. So this is one of those items that will go into the box, and certainly Mr. Dunn, who is the sponsor, will be attempting to get his allocation. House Bill 2374, the SLIF bill, passed out of Senate Appropriations 7-3 on March 21st. This is one of Mr. Biasucci's bills that is going into the box and will proceed through those budget negotiations. House Bill 2442, temporary non-expansion area. This was in our Senate Natural Resources Committee a couple Thursdays ago, March 23rd. It did pass on a strict party line vote, 4-3. You may recall this is one of those bills that gave us concern in the sense that it requires 50% of all irrigators to agree to regulate themselves. And we know from our experience in the Hualapai Valley Basin that they did not think that they needed to be regulated. And therefore, we don't think that this so-called solution would actually prove to be and might detract from some of the other legislative items that we're pursuing here in Mojave County. House Bill 2763, Mojave Wash Recharge Basin. Mr. Gillette was able to steward that through the Senate Natural Resources Committee last week. It passed without any no votes, and it goes to Senate Appropriations this week. So all in all, positive on the appropriation front. Not as positive on the groundwater management front. Again, this is because those bills are being effectively held up by one person in either chamber, that is the natural resource chairpersons. But again, as this is Water Awareness Month, we are going to be looking to leverage the governor's office and all opportunities that we can to push groundwater stewardship area legislation through towards to the end. I'll just highlight that last year, our rural management area legislation did not get a hearing in committee, but we were very proactive in meeting with legislators and getting buy-in and support for the proposal. And we fell about 24 hours or so short of getting that legislation passed through late introduction with the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority legislation. So we were very close last year despite no hearings, and we're going to push to do the same this year, despite the legislative makeup and who's holding those bills up. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
That you could expand upon a little bit. During the hearing on the temporary INA bill, I believe that there was a little bit of testimony from one of the legislators regarding the importance of rural groundwater management. And I wanted to note that because I think it's the very first time that I can recall that there's ever been any sort of discussion about that topic in an official committee hearing at the state legislature. Is that correct?
That is correct. And also I would point out that I'm not sure how familiar the board is with the issues around Rio Verde, which is northeast of Scottsdale, unincorporated area that doesn't have access to water right now. And not only on the temporary non-expansion area explanation of vote, Mr. Chairman Lingenfelter, but also on the explanation of vote related to a striker bill on Rio Verde. Legislators, both legislators on the Democratic side of the aisle said, I don't understand why we are focusing on just one area, for example, Rio Verde, and that in the testimony on that case, we're focusing on one area that's close to that's in Maricopa County, and we're not focusing on people's wells who are lowering or going dry throughout the entire state. related to the temporary non-expansion area legislation, the testimony was similar, but that this legislation would simply serve to detract from legitimate legislation that would actually provide real protections to rural Arizonans, rural businesses, in how they live and plan their communities.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And we'll continue our work with you, obviously. I think somewhere between 1.5 or maybe a little over 1.5 million Arizonans live in the 80% of Arizona that is still required or labeled rural. So, securing our rural water supplies, there really is no more important work. Whether you live on the river or you live somewhere like Kingman, which is solely dependent upon groundwater in rural areas, for this board and everybody that we work with, there's no more important work than securing our groundwater and our river water. So there's nothing else. Thank you for your update, and we'll move to item number 4, County Manager's Report.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. I have one item today, and it has to do with employment vacancies. As you know, we've been tracking those very closely. Vacancies did drop in 2022 with the package that the board approved. We were encouraged by that. Continue to track both the general admin as well as the courts, and it hovered around 100. It even dropped a few below. It has been creeping up. We're seeing an uptick in the last 2 or 3 pay periods to the point where the last pay period that was reported to me this Friday, the past Friday, we're back up over 130. So no need to do anything at this time other than just to make you aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Elders. Call to the public. We'll ask Ms. Chris Rodarte to come to the podium. Wayne Hollins, you're on deck. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Chris Rodarte, Mojave County taxpayer. John Adams once said, "Government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for profit, honor, or private interest of any one man, family, or class of men." Today, bright red Mojave County, the bastion of conservatism and constitutional fidelity, will consider and no doubt approve proclamations declaring the week of April 3rd through 9 as National Public Health Week 2023, centering and celebrating cultures in health, and declaring April as Fair Housing Month. I have a few questions for this panel. Why are we doing this? How did these diversity, equity, inclusion, wealth, redistribution gimmicks burrow their way into Mojave County? Isn't it enough that you rubber stamp dozens of unconstitutional, money-grabbing, liberty-looting schemes every month? Must we now proclaim our allegiance to the flags of LGBTQ+ and DEI? Have you not read the background information behind the National Public Health Week agenda? It's laced with socialism, special interest coddling, white guilt shaming, Second Amendment infringement, and more. For example, Monday, that's today, our focus is on community, wherein we are lectured on health disparities and impacted groups, admonishing us to donate only culturally appropriate canned goods to food pantries. You can't make this up. It's all available on hphw.org, by the way. Sadly, I lack the time to elaborate on the repercussions of Fair Housing Month, yet another wealth redistribution mantra for us all to salute and revere. Look it up, folks, before you proclaim its virtues. It's not surprising how we got here. Recall the frog in the pot, unaware he is about to boil, and until it's too late to leap from the brine. I'm old enough to remember when Mojave County proclaimed itself a constitutional county. Where did all that go? Whatever happened to that little snippet of lip service? Into which old business file cabinet is that dusty old document buried? Actions speak louder than words, as evidenced by every liberty-looting motion made, seconded, and passed by this board. John Adams once said, always stand on principle, even if you stand alone. Once again, I stand here alone, just another kook to be tolerated pursuant to ARS 38431.01H until that little red light comes on and the buzzer sounds. Time's up, you'll say, for all of us, and you won't be wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Wayne Hollins. Charles DeShazier, you're on deck.
Wayne Hollins, Golden Valley, Chairman and Supervisors. Again, I plan on talking about water, but after that, if you turn around and look at that flag, it don't have no eyeballs. It don't see black, white, yellow, green, Republican, Democrat, none of that. It has stars and stripes. It covers everybody in America that is here legally. Go to the cemetery. You don't have a Democrat cemetery or a Republican cemetery. We didn't join the military to fight for one place or not. If you don't like what we're doing, the border's either side of this country. Go there. I'm sure they'll welcome you. I get tired of all the political BS, blaming somebody else for what's wrong with America. Fix the dang thing yourself. If you do what's right, you won't have to worry about what the other person's doing. It'll fix itself. And remember that flag there. Lots of people have died for that. I'll talk about water another day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Charles DeShazier.
Hello, my name's Charles DeShazier. I live outside of Topak, and it's come to my attention that the board may or may not understand what's going on because they just raise their hand, vote through consent agendas, but I've done a little looking into it, and in 2020, we had one abatement assessment of $756 for the entire year. In 2021, there were 5, totaling a total of $26,000. In 2022, we had 19 for $144,000. And so far, coming up on the first 3 months of this year, we're looking at 11 for a total of almost $60,000. If you extrapolate that out, you're looking at $250,000 that has become a cottage industry for the development services to go ahead and go in and steal stuff from people's property without ever taking it before a court and following the Fourth Amendment to say what's to be taken. They just go in and take everything, whether it's listed or not. I've had this happen to me, and I would like to ask this board to maybe point outside investigator from the state down in Phoenix or somewhere else, because I don't know who all might be involved with any kind of kickbacks going from $1,000 to $250,000 over a 4-year time frame. When you're using the sheriff to go out without a court order to make sure that, contractors pick up stuff off from people's property, and the only person deciding this is with the building department. They don't have to go before a judge. They don't have to get any signed court order or anything else. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment as I see it, and that's what I joined the military for, was to defend, protect, and uphold the Constitution. I just wish you people would do it. I'd like you to pull consent item number 19 for discussion later in the day so that I can give you actual reasoning on what's going on with that. I guess that's all I have to say for today.
Thank you, sir. We have two proclamations today. The first is approve the proclamation declaring the week of April 3rd, 2023 through April 9th, 2023 as National Public Health Week 2023. I don't have a copy of that proclamation. Do you have a copy of that? Do you want to read that into the record? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Whereas the week of April 3rd, 2023 is National Public Health Week, and the theme is centering and celebrating cultures and health. Whereas, as the date of introduction of this resolution, the Arizona and Mojave County community are using opportunities for positive growth towards healthy, self-reliant individuals, families, and communities, which requires support for, 1, a reliable public health workforce to strengthen outreach, collaboration, and proficiency that translate to capacity building within individuals, organizations, and communities. 2, increasing access to healthcare, prevention, and education for individuals and families that builds trust and resilience. 3, ensure care for vulnerable populations. 4, collaboration among government, nonprofits, schools, businesses, and employers to sustain public health measures and positive health outcomes across rural and urban settings. 5, efforts to address mental and behavioral health as public health crisis to reduce health disparities, isolation, and suicide. Whereas in 2020, the life expectancy at birth for the population of the United States declined by 1.5 years, which is the largest drop in life expectancy since 1943. Whereas many of the leading causes of death for individuals in Mojave County result from chronic conditions, which are among the most common, costly, and preventable health challenges. Whereas supporting Mojave County parents and families who have the greatest opportunity to promote physical and emotional well-being for lasting positive health outcomes and self-reliance among children. Whereas the estimated drug overdose deaths in Mojave County and the impact of illicit substance abuse continues at detrimental levels. Whereas cigarette smoking is the leading cause of preventable diseases such as lung cancer in Mojave County. Whereas small tragic investments in disease prevention can result in significant savings in healthcare costs. Whereas public health professionals help communities prevent, prepare for, mitigate, and recover from the impact of a full range of health threats and emergencies, and have expertise in environmental health, emergency preparedness and response, epidemiology, community health improvement, communicable disease control and prevention, behavioral and mental health, health promotion strategies, and substance abuse disorders. Whereas public health professionals collaborate with partners outside of the health sector, including elected representatives, transportation officials, education officials, and private sector businesses, recognizing that other sectors can influence health outcomes. Whereas efforts in Mojave County to adequately support public health and the prevention of disease and injury can continue to transform a health system focused on treating illness into a health system focused on self-reliant prevention of disease and injury and promoting of wellness. Now, therefore, we, the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim the week of April 3 through 9, 2023 as National Public Health Week 2023 in Mojave County, Arizona, and help families, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and leaders better understand the role and importance of public health in our county. In witness thereof, I have set my hand this 3rd day of April 2023 and of the independence of the United States of America, the 247th.
Thank you for that. Do we require a vote on that?
It is agendized for a vote, yes.
Supervisor Angus, you have a comment.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier during the Housing Authority meeting, we're given these proclamations and these statements to make, and they seem innocuous enough, but the cumulative effect of these is just an end run towards socialism. This one in particular is irritating because it lays out socialized medicine. That's what this is all about. Can't get it done and Congress can, so this is the end run. Eventually, all of these statements are going to be used for that end. It's the same thing with the fair housing thing, and I think it's about time that we kind of took a stand, and we have been taking a stand throughout the year when these things come up. So I will be voting no. I wanted to explain my vote on both of this and the one after this on Fair Housing Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other supervisors wish to make a comment? Supervisor Bishop?
So I disagree respectfully with Supervisor Angus. I think public health is one of the important things that Mojave County government does for its residents, and it's one of the reasons that I put a good amount of ARPA funds toward purchasing the health and caravan that'll be going out and serving our remote areas where people don't have access to medical facilities like they do in Bullhead, Lake Havasu, and Kingman. So I think it's important to keep our people healthy when they can't visit medical services. They sometimes put it off for various reasons besides income and transportation, and I think public health is important. So I will definitely be supporting this.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Clerk, do we know where this proclamation came from?
Chairman Lingerfelter, Supervisor Gould, it was provided by Public Health Director Kingsley.
Hopefully, our staff was not wasting taxpayer dollars forming long-winded proclamations. But when I was chairman, I shielded the rest of the board from several of these proclamations that would come down. That every meeting, you get half a dozen of them. Every group across the United States wants you to proclaim it this day or that day, and that's really not, I think it just slows our whole meeting down. I'm going to vote no on this one and no on the other one also. Thank you.
Any other comments? Supervisor Johnson?
Not really. It's a week-long event of proclamation, like Supervisor Gould says. We do these for pretty much everybody. I guess I could ask the attorney. There's nothing legally binding by us issuing this proclamation, is there?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's a feel-good thing. We promote health. I understand what Supervisor Angus is saying. Some of us disagree with parts of what the health department does, but other than a feel-good thing, I think it has no meaning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Proclamation does not pass. Approve the proclamation declaring the month of April as Fair Housing Month in Mojave County. Is it as long as the last one? Okay. Will you read that into the record, please?
Whereas the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, and the Fair Housing Amendments Act 1988 prohibit discrimination in the sale, rental, leasing, and financing of housing or land to be used for the construction of housing or in the provision of brokerage services on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. And whereas the 1986 and 1988 Fair Housing Acts declare that it is a national policy to ensure equal opportunities in housing, and whereas the principle of fair housing is not only embodied in national laws and policies, but it also the fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas Mojave County adheres to the principle of fair housing and promotes civil rights of the people of Mojave County to be free from discrimination, and whereas it is contrary to the policy of Mojave County and unlawful to discriminate against any persons because of sex, race, color, creed, national origin, or ancestry in housing, and whereas April has traditionally been designated as Fair Housing Month in the United States. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mojave County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in Mojave County, and do hereby urge all citizens of this community to comply with the letter and spirit of the Fair Housing Law.
Thank you. Any comments from our supervisors? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
As appear to have it, do have it. Motion passes. We have a presentation, Board of Supervisors online meeting portal. Information Technology Director McDaniel, how are you?
Morning, Chairman Lingenfelter and Board. I have been asked to come and present the meeting portal that the county provides to the citizens for accessing these Board of Supervisors meetings, the backup documentation, the minutes, the action items, the video. Our clerk of the board was so gracious to recommend me as the presenter, and I accept it. So I put together a PowerPoint presentation for us. We will be saving that as a video and uploading it to the county's YouTube channel and making it something that all citizens can access all the time to help them if they need instruction on how to get to the items. So with that said, we'll start the presentation. So I would like to take this time to remind all citizens of the county that our official government website is www.mojave.gov. We did start the process to migrate away from our old domain a few years ago, so thought I'd remind everybody that you can reach the county's website by visiting www.mojave.gov. When you visit the county's website, we have a tabular design in the front of the homepage. We have news and notices, meetings, services, and an alert center. So to get to the meetings, we click on the meetings tab, and you can see this in the presentation with the circle and the arrows around it. Once you click on the meetings tab, you will be taken to the meetings section of the site, which shows us events that are upcoming in descending order. And then along the top, we have buttons for Board of Supervisors meeting and Planning and Zoning Commission. So in order to access the Board of Supervisors meeting portal, we click on the Board of Supervisors meetings button, and this will take you to what we call the meeting portal. So once you're on the meeting portal, we have a list of upcoming events and available meetings. The upcoming events are meetings that haven't taken place yet, and when you click on the agenda for that meeting, the functionality is a little bit different than if you click on the button once a meeting has already occurred. So this meeting I'm demonstrating here hasn't taken place yet. It's taking place right now when I took these screenshots. So by clicking on the agenda button, I'm basically given a web-based view of the Board of Supervisors meeting agenda with a list of all the item numbers. Normally you wouldn't see it exactly like this. You would scroll through the items numbers on your computer. If you want to access the electronic documentation and backup for an agenda item, you click on the item number itself as depicted in the screenshot here. Once you click on the item number, you are basically passed over to the county's electronic document management system where all the agenda backup is hosted and housed for the Board of Supervisors meetings. I chose this meeting since Community Services seems to have a lot of items on the agenda lately. So I jumped back to the meeting portal here. We're going to take a look at clicking on the agenda button for a meeting that has already taken place. So by clicking on agenda, as you can see depicted, we are taken to a similar viewer, but this viewer also contains additional functionality so you can see the video and audio and the items all together. So on the agenda, the text of an item turns blue once that item has been discussed by the board. So clicking on the text will command the video player to basically jump the video to that segment of the video so you don't have to try to find where and what time that item was being talked about. So they're basically timestamps for the items for when they were discussed. So that's pretty much it. There are a couple other options in the meeting portal, which is action agenda. The action agenda is a document that the clerk of the board's office creates that documents the vote per item. It's highlighted and a lot more visible, and that information is not found anywhere else in the meeting portal. So if you're looking for which board member voted and how they voted on individual items, that's the action agenda. The minutes are obviously, well, many of you may not know this, but the minutes are basically the transcribed audio that the clerk of the board's office listens to the audio and transcribes a document of verbatim what is being said at the meeting by the board members as discussions take place. And then the video link is a link to the video player, similar to the agenda viewer. And that's pretty much it. I also provided some illustrations here to help kind of promote where the county is providing links to its social media presence. So in the header, which is this graphic here, this header is pretty much on every single page on the entire county website. We have a button for Facebook, which if you click that link, it takes you to a page that has a collection of all of the various counties that are using and leveraging Facebook. If you click on the Twitter button, which is the bird, that will take you to another page that has a list and collection of all of the Twitter presences that are being used by the various departments in the county. The last button is the YouTube link, and that takes you to the Mojave County YouTube channel. And a lot of the reason why we use buttons is it's hard to fix all of that. It's hard to fit all that text everywhere. And here's an example. The county's YouTube channel is actually this long URL. It's hard to verbally communicate to people, and it's a lot easier to click a button. So, we obviously hope that people have some recognition as far as what those buttons are. They can always hover their mouse above it and it will tell you too. So that is pretty much my presentation. The last thing I would say is a point of convenience that we did try to also provide the citizens is if you're interested in just getting to our meeting portal right away, you can go to a URL and type in meetings.mojave.gov and it will take you right to the meeting portal for the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Nathan. Any other, Supervisor Bishop?
Nathan, I just wanted to thank you for giving this presentation, because if you have something you're interested in that's going to be discussed at the Board of Supervisors meeting, rather than to go to Facebook and learn about it, you can go right to the source and watch and listen to what this board says and does and how we vote. So I think it's important that the people know that they have access to everything that this board has to make our decisions with.
Any other comments from the county supervisors? No. Nathan, you're always behind the scenes on a daily basis out there, making sure everything runs smoothly as far as the technology that the county uses. So it's nice to see you out front actually having to give a presentation, but we'll let you get back to what you do best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move to the consent agenda, items 5 through 49. Supervisor Bishop, would you like to pull any items this morning?
Pull item number 19 for Mr. Duche.
Thank you. Supervisor Angus.
Nothing this morning.
Thank you. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 23.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing there.
Looking for a motion to pass the consent agenda minus items 19 and 23.
So moved.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 19. Director Walsh, good morning.
Morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. Excuse me. Item 19 is the placement of a lien on a property that we performed an abatement on. This was the property in, trying to think, close to Topak. This was the water tank that had been buried, half buried, turned on its side. Mr. DeShazer, this is his property. We notified Mr. DeShazer of the violation. He appealed that judgment. That appeal went before the Building Code Advisory Board, where it was upheld. So upon the appeal and the hearing by the Building Code Advisory Board of this being a dangerous structure, we moved forward with appeal, or with the abatement of it. I do have, let's see if I can find my pictures, I'll show you just some photos of the structure. And get some help there by IT.
Can we get the iPad on the screen, please? Thank you.
So when we first inspected, we found the water tank here half buried with some sort of I-beams in front of it. And then in the rear of it, we also found this vent or whatever type pipe sticking up from the rear of the structure. So that was our initial findings. Hey, this is a dangerous structure. The design of this structure wasn't made to be buried. It was made to hold water and standing. We notified the owner. As I mentioned, they appealed the decision. That appeal was denied. Basically, the decision of the building official was upheld. We moved forward with the abatement. When we went out onto the site to perform the abatement, the picture up in the top two pictures, you'll see there, someone had cut the tank in half, leaving this jagged metal edge around the sides, and this, as you can see, I don't know if you can see, it looks about 7 foot deep from the cut down to the bottom. So we moved forward with the abatement. The bottom picture is the final product. Oops, went dark on me there. Is the final product, basically cleaned up the property there, and then this would just be to place a lien on the property for that work that was done.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Director Walsh? We do have two individuals signed up to speak. Karen DeShazer, Charles DeShazer, you're on deck. Please state your name, thank you.
Karen DeShazer, Topeka, Arizona. I oppose this assessment because it's an unnecessary charge. Mr. Chairman, fellow supervisors, and my law-abiding fellow Mojave County residents who agree with Ronald Reagan when he said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I believe that you are elected by us to represent our wishes to the government, and in this case, the county. This charge was unnecessary. When my husband and I learned that we had this claim against us by the county, we started to abate the situation. They wanted us to get rid of it. We were actively doing that, and we had sold that water tank to a scrap metal dealer in Kingman who had already been out and cut on it, hauled some of it away, and was in the process of going back and forth and dealing with it. But then I came across this memo when we asked for all of the records through the Freedom of Information Act. And if I may, it's very short, 1 paragraph, sent from Old Trails, the company that they hired, on December 28th to Patty, and the subject was the property. Hi, Patty. I spoke to Paul late yesterday, and he will get some sheriff or a race scheduled on Tuesday or for Thursday of next week. I also talked to Rob, and he said, we have been out there twice already, 2 Sundays since November 27th. If you guys want to send an inspector out early next week prior to us going to make sure that it is still there, that would be fine, and let me know. But we can't go out there a 3rd time, and a lot of expenses that day are preparing and running equipment in and out if gone. If gone, we can we can deduct like dump fees, but a lot is going out there and back on this particular one. Let us know. Thanks, Julie. Obviously, the county and the person they're contracting with knows that active steps are being taken to get rid of this unsafe structure. The county knows our email. The county knows our phone number. The county knows our address, and the county drives by our property along with these other folks that we didn't know, visiting our property without our knowledge. And when I asked, why didn't they say something to us, they said, they're not in the business of small talk. They're not in the business of chit-chatting with us. This is an unnecessary charge. We were taking care of it. That's what they wanted us to do, to get rid of it. And they were just debating on, can we get out there before they get it out of there? We want the money. Who can get there first? This is wrong. We were doing what they asked, and no one asked us what we were doing about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Supervisor Gould.
Mrs. DeSager?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So between when the county noticed you and when the county came out and abated that, how much time had elapsed?
I think our communication with them was in September, and they came out and abated it on the 11th of January.
Okay, so it was 90 days maybe?
And they'd already been talking to these guys who'd been out twice at the end of November, or they were looking around the property and noticed that something was going on, a lot was going on out there. It was getting taken care of, but we didn't get contacted after that by anyone.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. DeShazer?
Yes, you kind of have the gist of what's going on here, but my biggest problem with this is it's not going to bring the tank back or anything like that. I was getting rid of it, but we had a hearing through the, we appealed the actual charge to begin with, and our hearing was on October 12th. And we were waiting because according to the paperwork I received, it said that the next step would be to appeal it to the Superior Court if I had another appeal from the appeals board that we sat at on October 12th. I have yet to get any outcome from that appeals board. They've not sent me anything. From October 12th until January 11th, zero contact with development services. They never contacted me on anything. On January 13th, I went in there to find out because on the 11th of January, we, both me and my wife were in Las Vegas. We saw on our Ring camera the sheriff go by, equipment go by, and didn't know what was going on because somehow, I don't know what the idea behind this is, we had a demolition permit pulled on our property and never notified. That doesn't seem right to me to begin with. And then when you look at the bill that you're presented with there, the total bill is $4,200 or something like that. I've ran the numbers on it, and 53% of the bill is for the total abatement that took 4 hours. The other 47% is administrative fees of 26 hours at $50 an hour for public employees in the development services to do I don't know what. Another 5 inspections that they did. The inspections did absolutely nothing, but those were $65 a piece for like $300 and something. And they pulled a title check through Chicago Title twice on my property. I have no idea why they would need to pull title on it if this was the issue. I was never contacted, ever. And then on the 13th of January, my wife put in a formal records request, And we didn't hear anything for 75 days after that. So we went in on the 23rd of March, and we were told, oh, that records request, the person handling that left. And we never got it. And so on the 24th, we finally got it after 75 or 80 days after requesting. So we've only been aware of this. And on January 13th, Gilbert Smaby told us that we would be informed when it went on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors. We were never informed. My wife just happened to catch it on going through what was on the agendas. So nobody ever informs anybody. It's like something out of Cool Hand Luke. There's a failure to communicate here. You know, they want to sneak in, and like I say, earlier when I was at discussing the increase of abatements here, do you really believe that we go from 1 to 5 to 19 to 11 in the first 90 days of this year, that people are just so, you know, oh, well, I'll let the county take care of it. They sneak in and they do whatever they want. And there's actually no Fourth Amendment court order, you know, a warrant sworn out describing. And in this case here, as you can see from the pictures, I can bring up the pictures myself of the January 9th inspection, showing that there was an 1,100-pound culvert that was over 100 feet away from where the people were told to demo, and they loaded that right in the truck and scrapped it out for the steel cost. You know, they stole my stuff. There's pictures of a safe. Actually, there's one picture of a safe that I had on the property. I had 3 safes over there. They're all gone. They just took, and there's no description anywhere in any of the demolition paperwork to tell them what to take or what not to take or how this happens. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Angus.
Are you accusing the county of stealing your safes?
Yes. I know they're gone. They're in the pictures that they made. And they're gone. And I asked them on the 13th for them back. And they said, nope, we're going to scrap them out, and that's what it is. I can give you the safe combinations. They're still at my house. And there's pictures of a safe, only one picture, but I know there were 3 safes there. And they took a 1,100-pound steel culvert. And like I say, these guys are being paid their regular paycheck. I don't know if this is a new revenue stream that they've come up with somehow to charge $50 an hour times 26 hours just for administrative fees on a job that literally took 4 hours on property by the people that actually abated the property. Why does it take 26 hours of administration? You know, are they somehow sending $50 bills to their employees that happen to get assigned these jobs? I don't know what's going on. This isn't my job to do. I'm just questioning and like I say, I gave you guys all a copy of the Constitution last time I was in here, and the Fourth Amendment clearly states things that are to be seized need to have a description of them.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DeShazer, to your understanding, what is the appeals process for this?
The appeals process, as I understood it, was we paid $50. We were supposed to get a hearing before the, I'm not sure what it's called, the appeals board and then I've been waiting for anything in writing, or they have my email, my address, my phone number. Obviously, they know where I live. And I never received anything from the appeals board. These people don't like to put things in writing, as you well know from my last dealings with this board.
So there was no application for an appeal that you had to fill out? Or?
Yes, I filled it out, and it said on the application, the next process is, if you disagree with what the appeals board says, is to go to the Superior Court. What am I supposed to do? Walk into the board, clerk of the board over at the court and say, well, they said this, but I have nothing in writing telling me what the actual outcome is.
Sure.
You know, They never sent me anything, and there was absolutely zero contact from the day I walked out of the appeals board in this very room to, you know, the time that I walked into the development services on the 13th of January and was confronted by 5 people saying, it's all legal, it's all legal. We got the county attorney to check into it, you know, so, you know, we're not going to give you your steel back. We're not going to give you anything back. You'll just get our bill, and you will be informed when it comes before the Board of Supervisors. And that's how, I don't know, maybe I'm an anomaly here, but, you know, this is what's happened to me. I don't know if 19 people last year and the other 10 people this year have enjoyed the circumstances I have, but this is, I'm telling you my story right now.
So were the safes in the area of the tank?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
But the 1,100-pound culvert was over 125 feet from where on their map for the demolition permit, the county circled demo this. And there's pictures on it from what Mr. Walsh has there of the inspection on 1/9, which was 2 days before. They were out there 2 days and took all these pictures. They didn't demo it until the 11th. So they could have called me. They could have stopped by my house. No, this is a regular ongoing business that somebody is making money on. And obviously it's growing and growing.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Director Walsh, you want to come up and provide some additional information, please?
Chairman, thank you. Chairman, members of the board, just remind the board, this property was initially permitted as a rabbit hutch. Mr. DeShazer went to our Bullhead office, pulled a permit to install a rabbit hutch at this location. When our inspectors went out to this property, no rabbit hutch was found. This tank was found half buried on its side with power running to it. As I mentioned, it was determined to be a dangerous structure. And then we notified the DeShazers of that decision. They appealed it. We went to the Building Code Advisory Board. It was upheld. At that time, the DeShazers were informed of that decision. So they were aware that, yes, this will be abated. Following that, we continued towards abatement. At no point did we ever receive any communication from the DeShazers that they planned on abating the property. We received no demolition permit from them to abate the property. So in our understanding is they were not moving forward with it. So we moved forward. A number of times in many of these cases, we'll see people say, oh, I'm going to take care of that. They'll pull a demolition permit and then not do anything with it. In this case, they didn't even pull a demolition permit. So our understanding was they were not going to move forward with this. We contracted with Old Trails. We go out ahead of time just to ensure that everything is still there and inspect the property. And then our contractor will abate the property, clean the property, remove the dangerous structure and take it to the landfill or do whatever with it. That was basically our process on this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Tim, the notice from the county to the property owner that basically gave notice that the county intended to abate, how much time, what's the statutory time frame for between that letter and how long a property owner has to abate?
That's a great question. And I'll give you the time frame on this one. I'd have to look up and see what the statutory requirement is on it. I don't have that right offhand, but we found the property. Let me find it real quick if I can.
I'd ask Attorney Esplin that same question while you're talking.
Appreciate it. So I've got the minutes from the Building Code Advisory Board meeting. So let's see, we inspected the property initially August 30th, 2022. We inspected the property, and at that point, we posted the property as a dangerous structure. At that point, it was sent certified mail to the DeShazers on September 7th, 2022. Request for appeal was processed September 26, 2022. An appeal hearing was held October 12th, 2022, and it wasn't until January 12th of 2023 that structure was abated. So from October 12th until January 12th, they had, get my math here, I think that's 3 months to be able to abate that structure before we went out there.
And you said it was a certified notice. Does that mean that a signature was required?
That is correct. So they received it, and we know that they received it. One, we got the certified mail return receipt, but also they filed an appeal based on that notice.
Attorney Esplin?
They have 30 days.
They have 30 days once that certified letter.
No, 30 days from the date that it's issued, and then 30 days to abate the nuisance, and they didn't do that. And they gave them far more than 30 days. They gave them more than 30 days. They gave them at least 35. How many days did you give them?
Yeah, so we notified them clear back in September, and we didn't abate until January.
But that was they appealed in the middle of that. So you issue the notice, and then you have 30 days to abate it. Or 30 days to remedy, and then if they failed to remedy, they appealed it here. They appealed that decision. The decision of the chief building inspector was upheld, and then they still did not abate it, or they still did not remedy the problem after that, at which point you then abated it.
That is correct.
And those timeframes, is that out of statute, that's state law?
So there's ARS 11268 allows the county to adopt procedures to abate public nuisances like this one, which we have done. There's two different statutes that they've adopted, 2021-03 and 2020-07. That's the process to abate public nuisances, and also in this instance to abate dangerous buildings. Statutes, the Arizona law allows the county to adopt these procedures, and this is the procedures that they've adopted, and they followed through with those procedures.
Thank you.
And just one other thing too, just so you're clear, on the Fourth Amendment applies for criminal cases. That is when you are seizing property as part of a criminal case. If you're doing searches as part of a criminal case, you're required to have warrants to search somebody's persons or property or homes, locations like that. The Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to this situation. They're not, I mean, this is a situation where we notified the owner of the property, he has a dangerous building on his property. It needs to be taken care of. It's his responsibility to take care of it. He did not fulfill his responsibility. He appealed that decision. The board then denied that. And now we're at the point where in order to ensure that we no longer have this dangerous building on somebody's property, the county has abated it, and now we're coming before the board saying this is how much it cost. I'll even note in the notice to abate, I believe it said that, I mean, they give an estimated amount of how much they think it'll be. I believe they estimated up to $15,000. It came out to 4,000?
Yeah, 4,000.
Just over 42.
So just over 4,000, $4,244. So it was significantly less than what was estimated. It was estimated at 15,000. It came in at 4,244.
Thank you, Attorney Esplin. I'll entertain additional comments, discussion, or an action from the board.
Chairman Lingenfelter, I have a question for Mr.
Supervisor Bishop.
Duche. So I'm just curious, why would you have 3 heavy metal safes and a rabbit hutch? Can you help me understand that?
It was where I was storing them at the time, but that's not even the issue. I moved the tank there in April of 2020. I have a signed off final inspection from the department in August of 2020 for the rabbit hutch, for the electrical, and the inspector signed it off. Now he's retired. I've brought this form up to him showing that Their inspector signed it off. Their inspector was there with the tank buried. I got pictures of it that I've given to them. I asked the inspector at the time, do I need a permit for that tank? His answer was, it's not 300 square feet. No, you don't need a permit for it. They were aware for over 2 years that the tank was there. It was only when I went before this board to ask for a power pole in Golden Shores and why they didn't have a written policy or why there's no ordinance having to deal with power being hooked up on another issue. And I have in writing from Mr. Walsh that, oh, well, this was signed in error and they're retracting the signature. How do you retract a signature after an inspector that's retired has already signed it off? This is the answers that I'm getting from these people. I mean, Mr. Walsh put it in writing that it was an error, that this final inspection signature was in error. I thought I had a valid permit. There was absolutely no reason for him to be out there in the first place. And like I say, the inspector that was on site, Victor, I don't remember his last name right now, but you can see his signature there. I asked him specifically, do I need to pull a permit? Because I had to submit 9 different sets of plans to get a rabbit hutch that was 4 foot by 8 foot. I built the rabbit hutch. It's been shot up. It's been burned down. It's been removed from the property. And then they come back 2 years later and tell me this is an invalid permit, that it's expired, because their people in their office don't do their paperwork correctly. I'm in trouble. And Mr. Maybe goes around telling me that, well, I can go anywhere in this county and as chief building inspector, I can declare any structure unsafe and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Okay, thank you.
Director Walsh, you want to come up and talk about that permit, please?
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, I think this may be getting a little bit off topic with the permit. However, the issue with the permit, it was he pulled a permit to construct a rabbit hutch with power going to it. The initial inspection that was completed was for the electrical connection. So the power pole with the service on the power pole, that's what was inspected at the time. That's what was approved. At the bottom, there's a signature on the bottom that should not have been there at the time. Basically, the electrical was the only thing that was inspected for that property. So.
Thank you. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ryan, is there any appeals process for these kind of things that go to a court?
Yeah, he could appeal it. They can appeal it to the Superior Court. Mr. DeShazer could have appealed that decision to the Superior Court.
So, Mr. Walsh, if he had an appeal, I'm somewhat confused. So, the appeal that he had was to the Building Code Advisory Board?
That's correct.
So, and he was at that meeting?
That's correct.
So, and he knew the outcome of that meeting?
Yes, sir.
Did they? If I could jump in, did the board make the ruling right there from the?
Yes, the board. So the Building Code Advisory Board heard Mr. DeShazer's argument, heard the Building Code, the Building Division's points and why it should be determined a dangerous structure. Following both presentations, the Building Code Advisory Board did make a ruling that it was a dangerous structure and that it needed to be abated.
So do we advise people at that time that this is appealable to the Superior Court?
I believe it's included as part of, as he mentioned in the application, that first he appeals to the Building Code Advisory Board and then he may appeal to the Superior Court after that.
So that was on him to appeal it then?
That would be his, yeah.
So there was no notification required because he was at the meeting and advised at the meeting?
That's correct. And I did follow up with the county attorney's office on the notice, the following notice. And that was the opinion. Mr. Haas at the time said he was at the meeting, he was aware of the decision, therefore he's been notified.
And so on the application, it states that the decision of the Building Code Advisory Board is appealable to the Superior Court.
I would have to look at that application to confirm
That's a pretty
that.
important, if we're not telling people that, we're not doing our job.
I'd have to look at that to verify that, but from what Mr. DeShazer said,
Give me a minute.
sounds like it is.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, do you want to bring Mr. DeShazer up and show his copy to see if that's on there?
Would you like to see it?
I would like to see it.
Mr. DeShazer, could you come to the podium, please? Supervisor Gould.
Should be.
If I may just save you a little bit. I just received confirmation from my staff that it is on the application.
So it is on there.
Sorry, I can't find it right. I have a stack of many pages here.
Sure, understandable.
So I was still waiting for the outcome of, to be mailed to me, but I never received anything, mail-wise, as what the outcome was.
I don't know that we have a requirement to notice you if your appearances are required at the board meeting.
Okay, but on the same problem that I'm having here is, what's to stop me from going and pulling a demolition permit on your property and not notifying you and then just taking whatever I feel like? Nobody notified me on December 28th.
No, but I'm arguing your complaint that you did not receive due process.
Okay.
But I think the onus was on you to appeal it to the Superior Court.
And I would have if I'd had anything to take there. Do I walk into the courthouse and say, look, these guys said this. I've gotten confirmation from the sheriff's office that if I don't have it on videotape, I guess it didn't happen. Do I go down and say, give me a videotape, I need all of this information when I'm expecting to hear from in the mail, and on top of everything else, they're not even following their correct process, because if you look at the appeal that I filed, it says that I have at least 10 days notification. I was notified on October 7th for a hearing on the 12th. It's a technicality, but they're not even following the rules and regulations that they set up.
Supervisor Angus.
I have one question. You said that you didn't know what the process was to go further. Did you call Development Services and say, what do I do now? What's my next step?
It says it on the paperwork that the next step is to take it to the.
But you didn't understand how you do that. Did you make any effort to find out how to do that?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I guess, nobody else is either, because like I say, you're getting more and more. And do you think 47% of the bill for the $4,000 is racking up to their office, where they already have paid employees that are doing their job, but obviously not?
Do you have any other questions, Supervisor Gould?
Good question for Ryan. Ryan, are we required to provide the decision from the Building Code Advisory Board to the?
I don't know, but I will concede that he does need something to be able to go to court, but you can always ask for that. You can say, give me an order, give me something so that I can take that to court. I mean, sometimes let's say that I'm appealing a decision from the trial court, then I can get an order from the trial court, ask for an order. Sometimes the Court of Appeals will then send it back down to the trial court to get a specific order saying this is what you need. So this is something that he needs to do. That's something that he can do and he didn't do. He could have appealed that decision to the Superior Court and he didn't. I'm just looking at the notices on the backup. the notices that were sent to Mr. DeSazier, it says clearly, it is unlawful for any person to occupy or reside in this building. The county building official has declared the structure condemned. The county building official does hereby order that the following actions are required. And we pointed those out. Remove the structure. A demolition permit is required, which he did not get. Dispose of all rubbish, garbage, and debris in a clean and sanitary manner, or submit an application, engineering plans, and so on. And it says in there, if the above ordered work is not completed and inspected for compliance by the date set forth above, the county building official has the option to authorizing the work to be done and charge the cost against the property or its owners. So he's notified. He's being notified that this is the process. This is the procedure. If you do not clean it up within these 35 days, then we will remove it. And that's what he was told. And he then took that and he appealed that to the Building Code Advisory Board, and the Building Code Advisory Board told him while he was there that they were denying his appeal. So he was told that.
And on top of everything else, the advisory board appeal was more than the 35 days that I was given in the first place.
That's to your benefit. They gave you more time. They gave you more time. They gave you more time to do that.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Sure.
But, the process is something that most people are never going to see in their lifetime. And so the one time they do see it, you guys are just running it through, making thousands of dollars.
Appreciate it. I think we've heard from both sides on this issue. I'm going to entertain a motion if someone wants to offer one.
Mr. Chair?
Supervisor Johnson.
I just looked up online, and we're talking about October 12th of 22. The Building Code Advisory Board meeting is online. So it has everything there that was decided.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And I'll just jump onto that too. I'm just throwing this out there, but he probably also, does it have the minutes on there? Is there if there's minutes isn't there a minutes from the advisory board? So we'd have the minutes to be able to present it to the Superior Court too.
Thank you.
I mean, so he could have that as well, but.
Understood. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I'm going to amend the motion that we have at hand and approve the issuance of an assessment in the amount of $2,200 against parcel 210020031.
Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Bishop.
motion to approve.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. We do have it, so ordered. Move to item 23. Director Walsh.
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, item 23 is a adoption or a rename of a road, Griffith Hall Road, which is just north of the Griffith power plant. This is the road that would lead to the FlowServe cryo new facility going out there. I forget the full name of it. But they have requested that the road be changed from Griffith Road to Griffith Hall Road to Cryo Drive. Speaking with Public Works, this would be actually helpful to actually remove some of the confusion between Griffith Road and Griffith Hall Road and that. So
thank you.
We recommended, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this item.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Walsh, I'm curious who's paying for the changes to the signs?
I believe that would be addressed through Public Works. Sorry. Oh, the applicant will cover those. I apologize.
Are there other businesses or residents on this road that are going to be affected by this change? Where they would have to change their paperwork?
I believe the only other facility on this
letterhead and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the only facility on this road would be the storage tank that's operated by I-40, the Mojave County I-40 Improvement District, or industrial water system.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Johnson.
Is this road improved?
It's a graded road. I don't know if it's a county-maintained road. It's not a county-maintained road.
From the pictures you've shown us, it's overgrown and everything else. This road was built to drag across the airplane engines for Griffith.
Okay.
And the county put it in. I don't see the reason to change the road's name on this. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. The road's not improved. They want the name changed, but they're not going to improve the road. Why don't they pay to improve the road, and then maybe we'll change the name.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Johnson, I believe as part of the site plan, they will be improving the road. Okay, so I'm getting a nod here. So as part of the site plan for the flow-serve facility, they will be improving that road there.
Improving it to what?
To county standard.
County standards for paved road? Or county standards for just tertiary road?
It would be for a paved road.
Pave the road, and I'll support it, but.
Supervisor Bishop, did you have a comment?
Actually, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
A motion to approve since this is in my district and I don't see any harm.
Thank you. You've heard that motion? Do I have a
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? As appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Next is public hearings, but before we get to those public hearings, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess.
I'm going to change the name of the church.
if everybody could please take their seat, we're going to reconvene. We're going to move to item number 50, which is our first public hearing. So I will open the public hearing on item 50. We do have two people that have signed up to speak. I'll call them up first. Jessica Grazer and Richard Fuchs, you're on deck. Jessica Grazer, if you could come to the podium, please. Is Jessica Grazer present?
She is. I think she stepped outside.
Okay, I'll move to Richard Fuchs. Mr. Fuchs?
Hello, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other members of the board. My name is Richard Fuchs, and I'm the property owner there. I submitted a request for rezoning from agricultural residential to a RV park because it's legally required. I've received some communication from some of my neighbors stating their concerns that we might be trying to put in 20, 30 RVs or whatnot. And I'm here to reassure and hopefully ease some of their minds that we have no intentions of putting in 30, 20 RVs. We would respectfully request the two pads we have currently with the option for a third one in the future. We do have some friends and families that might come down. We have currently developed the northern portion, the northern half of our property, and that is all we are asking, sir. We don't want to put in a commercial RV park to make money. We just want to be with our friends and be on our property and mind our business.
Thank you. No. Any questions for the applicant? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, public hearing. We'll call you back up if somebody has questions after the public hearing is closed. The second, again, we had signed up to speak, Jessica Grazer. Are you in the room now? Jessica Grazer? Well, we'll set her aside. Is there anybody else here wishing to speak on item number 50? First call. Is there anyone present wishing to speak on item number 50? Second call. Third and final call. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item number 50? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Let's see here, this is Mr. Walsh, Director Walsh.
Chairman Lingenfelter, if I may, just would like to make one thing out. The Planning and Zoning Commission, hearing some of the concerns, did limit the site to only 2 RVs. So just hearing the applicant's desire to have a third, I just wanted to make the board aware that currently in the resolution, it only allows for the 2 RVs. If the board wanted to allow for 3, that would be need to be made in the motion.
Thank you. Comments, discussion from the board? Supervisor Bishop.
Have you closed the public hearing yet?
Oh, excuse me. I did close the public hearing. Yes, I did.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve with the limitation that with the addition that this be limited to no more than 3 RVs on the 2¼ acres.
You've heard that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
For that motion, second, I'm going to ask one last time if Miss Jessica Grazer is in the room, if she wants to come down. She did fill out a request to speak, and before we vote.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chairman. Jessica Grazer, Mojave County taxpayer and Golden Valley resident. Thank you, Chairman and Supervisors. The rezoning concerns me as this area in specific question is horse properties are around this area quite a lot. I directly live just north of this property within a 1 city block. The additional noise, lights, traffic that an RV, even a small RV campsite can bring to the area can bring detrimental issues to these horse properties. A lot of these animals in question come from dire situations. Not only additional situations that we may be unfamiliar with, but the people renting these properties might also be unfamiliar with. With RV sites come side-by-sides. There is currently a large structure on this site that can house many side-by-sides, RVs, four-wheelers, boats, etc. This will kick up dust that can permanently damage animals' inside and health. It can also hinder any type of rehabilitation that these animals are encountering as far as the noise is concerned. There's a horse boarding facility directly across the street from this property, also just to the north, and myself just to the north of that, where I've adopted 3 horses that came out of a very dire situation. There are trails around this neighborhood that horses are oftentimes weekly ridden with communities that come together to safely ride on these areas that are low in traffic. With these trails is an open access for side-by-sides, which is going to definitely have an effect on the surrounding neighborhoods and these horses and these trail riders. In my opinion, this is bad for Golden Valley and the surrounding animals that live in this area. There's many other open areas that they could have considered. I do respectfully request that the board vote no to this zoning change. And if it is passed, it'll undoubtedly have effects for the surrounding neighbors and the animals in question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this item? Mr. Walsh, just one point of clarification, really simple. Yeah, zoning, I mean, most people know that zoning comes first. You have to have your zoning first, and then every project goes through a specific site planning process to deal with mitigation of dust, noise, traffic. Will this project have to go through a site planning process? Should they get their zoning today?
Chairman Lingenfelter, that is correct. With it being a special use permit for an RV park, they would have to go through the site plan process to get there. So yeah, they couldn't just go out right now and place 3 RVs there. They would have to go through the site plan process to get that approved.
Thank you. You've heard that motion in second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Item 51, I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 51. 3 chances to speak. The first call, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 51? Second call, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 51? Third and final call, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 51? With that, I'll close the public hearing. And I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman Lingenfelter, I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Supervisor Bishop.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Item number 52, I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 52. 3 chances to speak. First call, is there anyone here wishing to speak on item number 52? Ma'am, please come to the podium. Are you Joy Bancroft? Yes, I am. Actually, what I'm going to do, if I could, I'm going to just do the 3 calls, and then once I close the public hearing, I'm going to call you up. Thank you. As you signed, okay? Actually, no, go ahead and just come on up. I'll call you up.
Okay.
Miss Bancroft, Joy Bancroft. Change your mind.
Good morning, Chairman
Good morning.
Lingenfelter. Good morning, and Board of Supervisors. Item 52 was kind of off of our radar, and this directly involves agenda item number 53. This rescission of this resolution was from 2005. This was a piece of property in Topak that was approved and was going to be a mobile home park. It never happened because they had complications with sewage and all kinds of things. This is directly part of the parcel north of item number 53. And I would like to say that this property is planned for that whole revenue or venue of a concert park and a pool and all kinds of things that is related to item 53. So maybe if I would ask if you could decide on item 52 after you hear what we have to say about item 53? Is that possible, Mr. Chairman? It directly involves the property that they're trying to put through for rezoning on 53.
No, I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
We're going to take these in order as they're on the agenda.
Okay. Then I oppose it. I want you to know I oppose it because what they want to do is put a venue 300 feet, this is what the developer told us, 300 feet from a school. And they want to put in a concert venue, they want to put in all kinds of big parks like you see in Lake Havasu with those large RV buildings, and a swimming pool that could be available to the community. I don't know how that's going to happen, but you know, so it's going to be a 3-parcel right in the middle of a residential area in Topak. We have the upper area of Topak, the lower area of Topak. It's like right in the middle. 300 feet is what I'm hearing from the school. So I ask if you would please maybe table this, take a look at it a little further, but there was no parcel on this, and it came up the radar to me with all the information on the section in the township, and so it's going to go from rescinding a resolution from 2005. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Second call. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on item number 52? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward to the podium. Please state your name.
Will I also get to talk on item 53 if I speak now?
If you signed.
Yeah, I did. Okay, my name is Crystal Truby. I'm a resident of Topak Golden Shores. I also oppose item 52. When we signed up at the desk out there and we were filling out those papers, they kind of guided us on what we were here for, and they said for item 53. So I would have definitely signed up and been prepared for 52 if I would have known it was so closely connected. So I probably speak for a lot of people here. Just want you all to realize that we're all here for 52 and 53 in opposition. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're in a public hearing. Third request. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on item number 52?
My name is Larry Dante, resident of Topak, Arizona. Would you like to see what they're planning? Is there any reason why they hid the pictures of this rendition of project they're building? They're sitting right out there in the hallway. They're right here, the developers. Why are they not showing you those pictures? Want me to go get them? I'll hold them up here for you. I just happened to see them right there. Would you want to see what they're going to put in the middle of Topak? I'll go get it for you. Hey, you can talk to somebody else and I'll go bring them in.
We can't answer any questions, but thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 52. Excuse me. Okay, ma'am, come to the podium, please. Please state your name.
I'm Clodagh Rosendahl of Topak, Arizona, and I do oppose this zoning change. It's going to be detrimental to our community, and it is connected with number 53. It's part of the same ownership and parcel proposed site. So please vote no, and don't rescind the previous vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on item 52? Please come forward.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Chairman, members.
Please state your name.
My name is Dave Covington. We live in Topop too. Everything that Joyce said, we're 100% with. We're all here for 53. 52 is connected. Vote no, 52. And 50.
Okay. Please state your name, sir.
My name is Rick Bishop. I live at 13461 Golden Shores Parkway. This venue, or this 52, when they had it done in 2005, they were supposed to put in a septic or a sewer system. They were turned down from the EPA because it was going to mess with the river because it's too close. If this goes through and they keep saying they're going to put in a sewer system, how is this going to go through? This is wrong. The sewer system was not passed, so if they're paying somebody off, that's wrong. This whole thing of changing, rezoning, redoing is wrong. It's like in California, they put in Coachella Valley, they've got a venue there, a music venue. They have nothing but trouble with that. Every year they have it. There's drugs. The drugs are rampant. We don't need that. This is a retirement community. That's why people came to this community, was to retire, not to have none of this change go on, have all this stuff coming in that we don't need. We're not going to use it. They're talking about putting in a cafe, a bar. We already have 3 bars in town. We don't need another one. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Paul Darbon, and I live in Topak on Mesa Drive. First of all, I want to apologize to Ron Gould because I made a comment about I don't trust politicians, and I just want to apologize. I said that I was in a moment of heatedness because I felt like this was being pushed upon us, and I still think it is. And basically, I moved here from exactly where he said, Coachella Valley. They turned the Polo Grounds into a huge concert venue. They're bringing in 100,000 people every time there's a concert there. It just destroyed the area as far as quiet, brought in more pollution, trash people throw out as they drive by. I mean, there's nothing good about it for this community. But I have a little synopsis I wrote. I don't know if you want me to read it now or just hand you a copy, but I'm not used to doing this, so I'm a little nervous, so I apologize for that. But I can read you some of the reasons that this is bad for our community. I've lived there 5 years now, and I love the community. It's small, mostly retired people. We all love each other and respect each other. I mean, everybody waves hi as you drive by. Where do you find that? What community do you find that? I propose that this is going to totally change the community for the worse. So should I read this or just hand you a copy, or it's 6 pages?
We can't go back and forth. We have to close the public hearing before we can go back and forth. Sir.
Right. So I can't read it, or I can?
You can submit it to the clerk. How about that? And then after the public hearing is closed, maybe you can come back up, okay, and read it.
Okay, so don't read it now.
We can't go back and forth during the public hearing.
Okay.
So no, not right now.
So not right now. Okay. I brought 6 copies, so I can give everybody here one, I hope. But is quite involved. I mean, I don't understand why they're building it here in our community. Oh, they're over there. I'll go get them for you. But when there's vacant lots all the way up 95, they're huge, they could build that there and nobody would even notice it was there. This is going to impact our community thank you, so much so that I think there's going to be a mass exodus from the community because it's going to change the whole character of it. So there's 6 copies here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So that's my opinion, and I just think it's all about the money.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the rescission of BOS resolution number 2005-285 and 2005-286 before I close the public hearing? Please keep your comments on that.
My name is Nancy Ward. I live in Topak. This development is not what we want. We have a very close-knit, wonderful community. The gentleman was at our meeting. We had a meeting with Mr. Gould the other evening. The whole town was there. We tried to voice our opinion. We asked questions of the gentleman about the resort. Very good question. Thank you for asking. We haven't gotten that far. He never gave us any information. We don't want it. Our water supply is low. You want me to stop, right?
Well, I'm asking, the public hearing that we're under right now is for the rescission of a prior resolution. Do you have comments on that? But we'll get to the next item. Does anyone else want to talk about item number 52, the rescission of this BOS resolution?
My name is Martha Heyman. I live in Topak, Arizona. I'm wondering how you could possibly go forward with rezoning for these lots in Golden Shores when they've already done the research on it in 2005 and found that it would be too close to the river. It would contaminate our water supply. And I just hope that you'll vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 52. And with that, Director Walsh, you want to come up to the podium?
Chairman Lienfelter, members of the board, item 52, as was mentioned, is a rescission of Board of Supervisors resolutions 2005-285 and 2005-286. Generally, this is more a housekeeping item. Back in 2005, a rezone was done. One of the conditions of that rezone was that a final plat be recorded within 2 years. That has not been done. So basically, this is a housekeeping item to basically to rescind those resolutions, seeing that the conditions were not met.
Thank you, Director Walsh. Any comments, discussion, or I'd entertain a motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I move that item 52 be adopted.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Item number 53, I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 53. I would say we have, it looks like close to 30. Mr. Ryan Rodney.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for having the discussion on item number 53. As some of the folks previously said, last week we did have a town hall meeting, if you will, at the community center in which I listened to a lot of their direct concerns about the project, what's being proposed, gave the best answers that I possibly could. And I just, for the record, going forward with this proposal, I want everybody to know that we want to work together with the community and have discussion as we proceed in the design and as things become more crystal clear as to what's actually going to be taking place. I just want, for the record, to show that we want to keep the lines of communication and the dialogue open between the development company and the community of Golden Shores.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rick Bishop.
Explain to them that we can't go back and forth.
Yeah. It's a good point. Just for everybody to note that when we're in a public hearing, we cannot go back and forth. So everybody can come up and provide their comments. If there needs to be some back and forth, then the supervisors, we can call you back up after the public hearing is closed. I hope that makes sense. Go ahead, Mr. Bishop.
Yeah, excuse me, I was up here just a few minutes ago. And this...
I'm sorry, can you state your name, please?
Rick Bishop.
Thank you.
Live in Topak, off Golden Shores. This whole deal is really something that we don't really want or need in Topak, Golden Shores. The infrastructure can't handle it. It was brought up about the water situation. Well, they were going off a 100-year plan. Well, if you look at it, that was back in 2005. It has dropped down to a 50-year plan now for the water supply. Our water supply would be the same as theirs, even though they wouldn't be pulling off our tanks, but yet they're going to pull the water out of the ground off the same thing that we're pulling off of. That's not going to help anybody out by doing that. As far as the school, we really don't need the drugs and stuff close to the school, because the RV parks, you're going to have a lot of drugs. Doesn't matter where you're at or where you go. 300 feet from the road to where they're going to start building is really nothing. 300 feet's nothing. This whole thing is virtually wrong. We don't really want it, and we don't need it. They keep saying they're going to bring jobs. This is a retirement community. We're not looking for jobs. We're retired. We stay at home. We do what we want to do. We don't need people there that are going to come out of town and ruin our town.
Thank you, sir. Carrie Rafferty Hull. Carrie Rafferty Hull.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Rafferty Hull from Topak, Arizona. I live at the south end of Topak. There's two sections, the upper section and the lower section. I live at the south end. That would also be the south end of this development that they want to put in there. This is where they want to put a water or sewage treatment plant right outside my back door at the south end. Right now I have a wonderful view of the desert. I walk in the desert and I enjoy all the wildlife and everything that our community has. I've lived there 30 years and I've retired there recently, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life listening to off-road vehicles, thousands of off-road vehicles tearing across the desert. I don't want to have to smell a sewage treatment plant right outside my back door. I don't want to have the noise pollution from a concert venue that is across the street from my home. We're a tiny little town. We don't want all this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Larry Adante.
Afternoon, everybody. Well, it's almost afternoon.
Can you please state your name?
Larry Adante, Topak, Arizona. I just have, I got something to read here. As for the truthful disclosure to State Representative Louis however you say his name, Bashusi him and his wife are one of the 2 financiers of this project as confirmed by the developer. Okay, as confirmed by the developer. If this does not participate, this brings into question participation of a conflict of interest. Has he violated his own code of ethics from the Committee of Ethics from the United States government? As a conflict of interest is generally defined as a situation in which an official's private financial interest conflict with the public interest. His private financial interest conflicts with the public's interest. I can guarantee you that this plan conflicts with this town's interest. And I just want to say, if you don't think this, or it could be, then you are as blind as the Secretary of Mauritius that the southern border is secure.
Thank you, sir. Robert Warmenhoven, excuse me.
Robert Warmenhoven, Topak, Arizona. A couple of things I'd like to bring up. One, 99% of the community is against this. And it's because we live in a place that we're comfortable with. We don't need everything that he's talking about bringing to our little town. And if you look at the other place that was built on Lake Havasu Road, they're 20 miles from churches, schools, or other housing developments. That's what you want. Go do that someplace else. Because we like our quiet little town. And had I wanted to live in Lake Havasu or Bullhead City, when I came here, I would have bought a house there. But that's not what I wanted to do. Or Phoenix, for that matter. I have a sister who lives in Goodyear, Arizona. Beautiful community development. I couldn't live there because it's not me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Savannah Summers. Savannah Summers. Good morning. Could you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Savannah Summers. I live in Topak, Arizona. I've lived there for about 5 years now with my lovely husband and our children. We moved to that town specifically for that reason, small town community. As you can see who stand behind me, we're here to fight for that community and keep it the way that it is. Every single one of us is going to come up here and tell you the same exact problems. We do not have water. Our roads are not graded to have high traffic on it. We live on Route 66, a historical landmark. We already have a general store, a gas station. We have everything that they say they're going to bring to us, except what they don't seem to understand is that it's going to demolish our town and what we have and what we offer each other. The town is already booming. It's already as big as it can probably handle. And we keep coming to them with very good questions that they can't seem to answer. And I could ask them right now, can you still answer our questions? No, we had a community meeting and we told you everything that we were concerned about, but no, you still can't come to here and answer everything that we need to be talking about. What are you gonna do about our wildlife refuge that's right next to your sewer plant now that's gonna be polluting our river and our water and our marsh? How about the fact that our post office is literally popping at the seams because it can barely handle what we bring in? How are they going to be able to help the post office sustain what they bring in when they get one box for all 400 residents that they plan to have there? The noise is going to be an issue no matter what. You can whisper in your front yard and hear what they're saying 3 houses down. Every single person in this town is going to hear that music. Every single person in this town is going to smell their poop. And nobody wants it. We're asking to please hear us out. We're going to continue to fight this because nobody wants it. It's going to end up being a ghost town and they're not going to make any money anyways. Thank you for hearing us out. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Paul Darbin.
Thank you again for taking the time to hear us out on this.
Please state your name for the record.
Paul Darbon.
Thank you.
Sorry. This is very important to us because it is about our livelihood. And can I read my pages now or no? Yes?
Sure.
Thank you. So I live on Mesa Drive in Topak, Arizona. I moved here 5 years ago from the Palm Springs area to escape the noise and pollution that made that area a bad place to live and retire. For many years, I was a licensed real estate broker and appraiser, and I saw firsthand a destruction of the quality of life in the area of the local polo grounds as they were transformed and converted to a concert venue. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. It would bring in thousands of people. I realize this is not as large, but as far as the impact goes, it is large on our community. It's going to bring in noise pollution, traffic pollution, more theft and crime, and a degradation of life in the area. When I turned 65, I moved to Topak to escape the concrete jungle it had become. I also moved my 95-year-old mother here so I could take care of her in peace and tranquility. Now we are told that a large RV concert facility is proposed for our small town right next to the elementary school and local housing. There is no benefit to this, to the residents of Topak, except for a few jobs which we don't need. As this is mostly a retirement community, the pollution it will bring is too overwhelming to comprehend. I'm talking about noise pollution, traffic, air pollution, water contamination, and possible polluting of the delicate ecosystem that is our wildlife refuge and marshland. What the developer is proposing has no regard for the residents of Topak. This will totally change the quality of life for the worst. We already have 5 bars, 6 restaurants here, which is plenty for a small town. As for the concert venue, the noise would carry for miles as the desert has no trees or buildings to buffer the sound. There would also be vehicle and traffic pollution being brought into our quiet town. The people that live here are mostly elderly and retired and do not want this. The RV part would be stark white metal buildings that are ugly and would be at the entrance to our town. Large RVs and diesel trucks, along with the many off-road vehicles, would bring more pollution, including the abuse of our beautiful desert, which could lead to closing off the desert permanently, which they did in California. Besides vehicle and people, a water treatment plant is proposed next to the marsh, which could, potentially poison our aquifer and surrounding groundwater, as well as the marsh. They will also be taking many thousands of gallons of water from the already compromised aquifer.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to have to enforce the 3-minute timeline.
All right, I've already submitted all the other pages, so you can read it at your leisure, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. John Listelic. John Listelic. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
John Lastelick, Yuma Drive, Topak, Arizona, 17 years. When I first saw this thing and saw what they did up in Havasu Heights, you know, works great for Havasu Heights, out in the middle of nowhere. The only people complain are donkeys and roadrunners. This thing they want to propose to put in the middle, literally in the middle of our town. It's just a big giant white road apple. So it's the only way I can describe it. I'm hearing 400 pads. I think what I heard originally was 185 pads. You put 185 pads out there, you figure 20% of those people are going to show up with their razors, their ATVs in the winter. So that's going to put about 40 or 50 more ATVs in front of our houses out in the desert all winter long. And it's already kind of crazy as it is. These people come out here and they cut loose, man. Dust bowls everywhere. They don't care. They don't live here full time, so they have no understanding. This is our front yard or backyard or what have you. It's absolutely going to just destroy our little town. I don't know how they're going to possibly get ingress regress. You've got a road out there you can't improve. You're going to have, deceleration lanes, acceleration lanes, left-hand turn lanes, and from what I understand, you can't do any of that on 66 because it's a historical road. So what does that mean? You're going to cut through our neighborhoods to bring in access for that? So, you figure you're going to have an extra 50 more ATVs in the summer. Maybe there's going to be 50 more boats on the water. I mean, the boat ramps are already kind of pushing at the seams, even over at Pirate. So you have all these people descending upon our little teeny quiet town, and like the other lady said, you could literally hear people talking on the porch three houses away in the middle of that. That's how quiet it is right now. It's one of the reasons why I moved there, get out of the jungle, and now they're just gonna come and just put this giant, ridiculous thing in the middle of our city. And I don't even know what to say. It's like he said, where are we gonna go next? If I wanted to live in Havasu, I would have moved there. Or Bullhead, I would have moved there. But I wanted out, away from people, away from this kind of thing. It's just absolutely going to destroy the neighborhood, absolutely and totally will. And by the way, that 53 that we all just voted on, that's all part of it, unfortunately. So, but we're here to talk about 53 today. So I say no on this thing, absolutely no. Just remember, all these developers, they're here to cash in and leave. They're never going to live there, and we're going to have a whole bunch of new neighbors that we don't even know. They're not even going to be our neighbors. They're just going to come in, make their money, and blow dodge. And then who knows what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 years. I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. There's going to be a lot of unintended consequences. Also, there's not enough sheriffs to take care of any problems out there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Clodagh Lenora Rosendahl.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. I want to thank Mr. Gould and Ms. Bishop for answering the email I sent to you all last Thursday regarding this subject. We had a town meeting that was very informative, and we did not learn really a thing about the preliminary design of this RV park. I would like to oppose this adoption of rezoning because it will allow this very large eyesore in the middle of our town. I'm not opposed to growth in the town, but this type of growth is not considered conducive to the type of atmosphere. Not only the roads can't handle it, our water can't handle it. I don't want to end up like that Rio Verde estates out there that those people have no water. And our police is overburdened. They do a great job, love them to death. They come out to our community often and talk to us about problems, and they're always complaining that they're understaffed. Our impact reports that I believe you guys went off of are from probably 15 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. They're not accurate. There's 90 homes roughly right within 500 feet of this community that they're proposing, and the school is within 500 feet to 1,000 feet. And a concert hall would be pretty detrimental with all the drunk drivers if they are serving alcohol there. If there's 500 to 5,000 people that are going to come into that venue, where are they going to go afterwards? Are they going to inundate the streets and sleep in their cars, camp in the desert, dirty it up? Got to think about that. And I would just really like to impress on you the importance of you to oppose this rezoning change. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Lori Sanders.
Lori Sanders, Topak, Arizona. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to address you. And while I would like to echo everything that my neighbors have already told you, I do, but what I'd like to talk about is this actual motion that's before us to rezone these properties. At the meeting that we had the other night, The current zoning on these properties was explained to us by Mr. Gould. We appreciated that. And it seemed to me that within that explanation, everything that they say that they're proposing would have fit in that classification. What I see that they want to change it to seems suspicious. Special development and commercial sounds very different than residential recreation, or even the agricultural residential, which I was astonished to learn meant a lot more than agricultural could be done there. So what I'd like for you to consider is why this zoning change is necessary, because as I understand, once they acquire this change, everything that they've proposed or said that they've proposed, no one holds them to that. They can now come in and within the confines of the new zoning, do anything that fits there. And if you think that we're upset that what they're proposing will change our town, what they would then be capable of changing in our town would absolutely bring devastation to our way of life. And so what I ask is that you consider the necessity of this zoning change that is the point of agenda item 53.
Thank you, ma'am. Don Lynch. Don Lynch. Sandy King, you're on deck.
Hi, my name's Don Lynch. I live in Topak. I'm opposed to this just like everybody else in this building. We all moved here. We bought our quarter-acre lots. Some people bought 3 or 4 of them, but we bought the nicest mobile home, built the best house we could, okay? Why can't they just do the same thing? We don't, we're not against people moving in. There's plenty of vacant lots. Use them for what they're designed for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sandy King?
Yeah, that's me, Sandy King. I live in Golden Shores, Arizona. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and supervisors. Before I get into, I just have a brief comments here, but we may be old in our community, but we can hear well, can't we, from our neighbors? Just a funny comment. I'm not used to talking in front of people, but I know you're all aware that Topak is a very small community, about 2 square miles. Route 66 runs through it. We are not incorporated. We do not have a city attorney. We do not have a city manager to go to bat for us. So we're reliant on our county supervisors to step up and protect our little community, work with our residents. Obviously, as you have heard from last month's, I don't know if you were all there last month when we had our little meeting here, and last Wednesday, I think it was, when Mr. Gould was here, and Ryan, and Topak. This is not something we want or what we need. By rezoning these 3 parcels, I think it's just going to be a bad project for our community. Everybody has stated the water issue. A treatment sewer plant, where they want to build it on the, I guess it's the south end of that last parcel. Everything that's built by man, wherever it's at, is going to fail. And that sewage treatment plant is going to seep into our water supply. Between the Colorado River and our little community, I believe, somebody can correct me, there are 5 little lakes in there for fishing, kayaking, canoeing. No motorized boats other than maybe a pontoon, maybe, but there's a egret nesting area back up in there. I don't know if you've kayaked in there, it's beautiful. I just couldn't imagine the
water in there being so contaminated and become so toxic. There's toxic things happen all over this country. We had a rail derailment about a month ago, and it was corn syrup. Well, my God, corn syrup. We're all going to have diabetes now from smelling the sweet stuff. But anyway, a question. I know you can't answer questions from here, but is there an environmental impact report that's necessary, or a soil risk assessment report that is necessary to rezone this property, these parcels? But me and my husband, we are totally against this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Philip Finch. Philip Finch. Kimberly James, you're on deck. If you could please state your name for the record, sir.
Hello, Philip Finch, Topak, Arizona. Thank you, Chairman, Supervisors, for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. I'm a resident of Topak, which is a small community of about 2,000 people. The average age, about 70 years old. 90% of the people are all on fixed incomes or retirement accounts. The people of Topak depend and help on each other. We have a fantastic neighborhood watch program, which keeps us safe with neighbor watching out for neighbor. We have a fantastic, we have a fantastic civic center, which helps out residents in need, provides a place for us to eat lunch, as well as a library and having activities for its residents. We are concerned that the development of this size will put a tremendous strain on our resources: water, policing, post office, fire. And as of right now, we have not heard any concerns, and we have not heard how any of these concerns are going to be addressed. We are not against growth. We have plenty of lots that we would like to see developed before a project of this size is built in our community. I have a letter here signed by the residents of Topak, which lists our concerns. I would like to present them to the board at this time. We would hope that the board can see that more studies need to be made before a development of this size is allowed to move into our community. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Submit it to the clerk. Kimberly James. Crystal Truby, you're on deck.
You got your paperwork.
Thank you.
Ma'am, if you could state your name for the record. Thank you.
Kimberly James, Supervisor Drive in Topak, Chairman, Board. First of all, thank you for your service. I'm here today in support of the unanimous recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission to deny the rezoning permit for the Topak Golden Shores property. I feel that's fairly important to state up front. As Supervisor Gould pointed out in our recent town hall meeting, there are a number of development opportunities already permitted by the current zoning that exists. The issue at hand is the type of development proposed. There are sections of it that aren't currently allowed, and that's why we're here. But I think you've heard unanimously behind we don't want the entire project to go forward, so that's why the zoning is critical to our future. While I don't find Mr. Rodney's bound developments inherently bad, I do believe that this particular location is ill-suited, especially if you compare it to the other bound projects in Havasu, River Bound, in Idaho, Mountain Bound, in Yucca, the Canyon Bound. So, I mean, this isn't the only show in town for this bound projects. However, it is the only one that I've seen that is in the middle of an existing community. The others are all right off of interstates in a fairly uninhabited area, or in the case of the Idaho project in a town of 15,000, not 2,000, and right adjacent to commercial areas, not housing and schools. So an argument has also been raised by Mr. Rodney that if someone owns property, they should be able to do what they want on it. To an extent, the property was purchased with the full knowledge of the current zoning that it has, which does not allow for the scope of their project. While the board may take interest in the prospects of additional county revenue associated with this project, I believe that the cost to the existing community of Topak Golden Shores to be too high, particularly as it pertains to infrastructure, as noted with water, electric, emergency services, postal services, and ultimately our quality of life. But it will indeed provide capital gains tax breaks for wealthy investors. I would urge that the board, elected in part to represent the people who live in our community, recognize this and deny the request for rezoning as unanimously advised by the Zoning Commission. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you, ma'am. Crystal Truby.
Hello again. My name is Crystal Truby, and I live in Topak Golden Shores. I'm asking that you please vote this project down. I am in opposition. Do not allow for this zoning change. This developer has shown that he is not prepared to answer the important questions to proceed on with this build. This development would forever negatively change our town. By not allowing this, you may guide this developer and its investors to think more carefully on the location for their future builds. This is a careless choice of a location. Their current riverbound facility located in Havasu is not located in the center of a tiny town. And at that location, even though they are in the middle of nowhere, they do not have the amenities they are proposing to put here, like a concert venue, recreational rentals, dirt bike track. Please vote no as they continue with these projects to advise them to be more mindful of the locations that they choose. Golden Shores is a tranquil destination that will forever be changed if you allow this. This is down to money versus integrity and doing what is reasonable and right for the future of many that live here and that come here for the peacefulness that our small desert community offers. Some things should not be about money. I truly hope that you all use your inner mindfulness. You are in control of your votes. These investors and developers and the funding behind it care nothing about you, as they care nothing about us and our town, as it's been so distastefully shown over and over in this short amount of time. Choose wisely for the people of Mojave County and for the thousands of visitors that come through our scenic area to enjoy Route 66 and the tranquility of our 4,000-acre wildlife refuge. This brings nothing positive to our 2,000 residents that would be affected from living directly across the road from this ridiculously large venue, nor would it offer good for the visitors that drive through our small town with their classic cars and motorcycles who come to peacefully cruise through our town, which is not equipped with the resources needed to support this large scale of a venue. I ask, please, supervisors, vote as if this is your hometown or your favorite scenic area to come visit. Every current business we have currently in our town is inclusive and offers a service that we as residents and those traveling through can all enjoy. This massive development caters to few luxury owners and their money needs. It does not fit in with our town. We, the residents, are all investors in our own town, and ask you to deny their request as the commission already recommended. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Rick DeShinger and Joy Bancroft are on deck. If you could please state your name for the record, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good morning, supervisors, board chair, staff. My name is Rick Dischinger. I've lived in Topak for the past 15 years, full-time. I am sure many of you, if not all, are Rotary members. In Rotary, when we make decisions, we apply the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? For over a month, our community has been seeking information and answers to many questions and concerns. To date, we have received few, if any, answers. The community meeting last Wednesday highlighted the gross underpreparedness of the developer and failing the four-way test. We were treated to two answers that were the truth. On every question, the answer was, we are in the beginning stages of development and cannot answer that question. The second answer, when pressed by the crowd, is this going to create jobs for our community? The answer was a firm no. We, as you should, want answers to the following concerns, and many have been already stated. Number one, sewer and gray water waste. How is a glorified septic system going to handle 185 RV home sites, plus a bar, restaurant, pool, and concert venue? What is the impact on the town's water table with particulates that seep into it, and will the particulates make its way into the marsh or the Colorado River? Water. The developer stated that his statistics from 2005 showed 100 years of water. Well, 18 years later and 10 years of severe drought, the county's own website says that our water aquifer is down 50%. Electrical supply, the size and scope of the project will have a severe impact on our community, especially in the summer months. We lose power from time to time as it is, unless maybe they're going to go solar. PG&E gas pipeline, which runs right through this project, could be a disaster waiting to happen. What contingency are in place to handle and prevent this explosive event? Ingress and egress, no answers, just we'll get with ADOT, and actually, can a National Historic Highway be disturbed? Police and sheriff support, with an increase in their presence, or will an increase in their presence be made to ensure adequate response to our community? The impact on the National Wildlife Refuge, which is right next to this property. What are the impacts to this and the wildlife we all enjoy there? Indian artifacts, how will that be handled? Will our local tribes be conferred with, as this entire area was tribal lands in the past? Environmental impact research. Has the property been investigated for endangered species? If you apply the four-way test, you cannot, with a clear mind, approve of this rezoning request. These questions, and I'm sure there are more, need to be addressed first. Until then, you need to vote, as did your Planning and Zoning Commission did, unanimous denial. To me, the only solution for the developer would be to get the answers to all these concerns and then come back and perhaps drop this ugly and abhorrent footprint in an area away from established community, like they've done in all the other areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Joy Bancroft.
Joy Bancroft from Topak, Arizona. Thank you again. If I may show this venue that was brought to the Planning Commission, the magnitude of this is amazing. It's very impressive, no doubt, but you're going to consider a rezone where it can go commercial, and according to the developer, that gives him the opportunity to do the amenities, which is the concert venue, some of the RV parking and storage, the pool and the bar and all those things. Rezoning would give them the opportunity to do that. Right now, since you rescinded the resolution, they go back to a recreational residential approval. If you don't allow this rezone, then they still become recreational, residential area. So if they want to sharpen their pencils and come up with something else that looks more appealing to our area, do that. More than welcome. Bring that to us. But throwing this in our face and making this lake bound look so wonderful and impressive is not impressive to us. You know, this is nothing but looking like a huge entertainment area to our residential area. We are not an entertainment area, regardless of having bars and stores and whatnot. That is not what we are. We are a rural area. We live there because we like the water, we like the dirt, and we don't want to become an entertainment area that could look like Coachella or whatever. You know, maybe not quite that magnitude, but anyway, please don't do this rezone. Stop it right now. Just like stopping at one of our other meetings, somebody said stopping cancer. Please stop this now so that we don't see this become a giant venue that it just doesn't fit in our little residential area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to close the public hearing. Item number 53. I'd entertain a motion, or if the supervisor would like Director Walsh to come up, we can do that. Supervisor Angus?
Yeah, I would like a little bit more information, maybe hear from the developer after he heard all the issues that the residents have. Maybe he has more to say.
Could you state your name again for the record? Thank you.
Ryan Rodney, project developer, Lakebound Storage Management, LLC. We will be getting information as quickly as possible to the community members when we are in a position to actually validate to pay the expenses related to gathering that data and that information. As far as the water is concerned, we're going off of a report that was issued and signed off on by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. We feel that that is a valid piece of data that would allow the project to move forward with regard to water improvements, distribution designs, and collection improvements. We'll work extremely closely with the Department of Environmental Quality and Mojave County as well. As far as the ingress and egress, we've been down this road, so to speak, with the Department of Transportation at our Riverbound project on Highway 95. We want to understand what those constraints are and what the improvement requirements are, because we are big on safety. We've got coaches that are going to be going in and out of the facility. We want to make sure that we don't have any accidents or any trouble. And then as far as the concert venue is concerned, again, we're just still in the early stages. We've got to understand what kind of traffic, or excuse me, what kind of parking requirements are going to apply to the project, to where we can understand the capacity and the size of the venue. Working with the community and having quarterly meetings as this data compiles, I think will be a good angle of pursuit to maybe not get all of them turned around, but maybe some of them. And then just move forward from there and build on the community aspect, because I hear clearly and I understand how important it is to the members of the community. So bottom line, I want this to be a 2-lane highway. I'm not trying to bully, not trying to come in and just do it the way that we see fit. That's why I went to the community meeting last Wednesday evening to understand what the opposition was, take all of it into account, and put that on the front burner, so to speak, put it on our dashboard as we move forward to incur the expenses to bring the project to fruition.
Supervisor Angus.
Ms. Bancroft mentioned, would you consider downsizing or anything like that? Is those kinds of things on the table?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Right now, we're projecting just off of a preliminary design about 180 of our RV park spaces. I know that that's going to decrease because that does not take into account the easement with Southwest Energy, the natural gas pipeline that runs through the center of the property. We've got to stay clear of that. That's going to impact the quantity. I want to get with the neighbors to the northwest of the north parcel to where we can understand what kind of setback they would want from their backyard to where we would be building out and where we would be improving the RV portion of the project. So there's basically two separate plans. There would be the RV park plan, and then there would be the commercial plan. So I think it's important that they all understand that there is a difference between the two as we go, as we move forward with our design. And again, I do want to make sure that as things adjust, as things come into stronger focus, just from the use standpoint itself, I would hope that they would accept my pledge to communicate with them and keep them abreast as frequently as possible.
There's a lot of talk and concerns about wastewater and seepage into the river. Have you done any preliminary research or investigation into that issue?
All I can say to that is we would be implementing a similar system that we've implemented at the Riverbound facility. We will work closely with Mojave County Environmental Quality to understand what the constraints are and make our design and our improvements based on that and those permits and those approvals.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Or Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Walsh, can you come up and explain the process that after a zoning change happens, how staff goes through and takes a look at the project and then approves the project?
Chairman Lien, Supervisor Gould, I would love to. Basically, the rezone is the first step in the process here. And many times you'll see this, developers will come forward with a rezone first to see if it's even a possibility. Once they get that approval, then they'll start moving into the site plan design and then looking at the other aspects of the project. Definitely there's, I've heard a lot of concern as far as wastewater and water and those facilities. In development services, we would work with them, and ultimately we would not approve a project until it met the requirements by ADEQ, both on the water supply and on the wastewater collection. So they would, the concerns about polluting into the river and those types of things, we would work closely with them to make sure whatever design that they had did not do that. So, but yeah, the process, what they'll have to do, and I think I know it is, it's stipulated in the resolution. If approved, then they would have to go and prepare a site plan. That site plan would then be reviewed by the county and all of the interested parties. We would share that with Public Works and any other interested parties that may have a say or have a stake in this development. Once we got all those comments, we'd return those to the applicant. They would have to address those before we could even approve the site plan. So it is, like I said, this is the beginning step for a project like this to see if there is an appetite there or if it is even something that can be done. And then once approved, if approved, then we would move into the site plan and look at the more detailed portions of the project to make sure that it is feasible.
So if Mr. Rodney chose not to go forward with this project and somebody else was going to do a project there, would they have to go through that same process?
That is correct.
So the same process. Thank you, sir.
Director Walsh, before you sit down, the item says that the commission denied this zoning by unanimous vote. Can you tell me what they based their denial of the zoning on?
I would say, and I don't want to pretend that I know the minds of each of the commissioners, but I believe definitely the amount of turnout, the amount of opposition played into that. I would say that would be a big factor. But other than that, I don't know. There wasn't, like I say, without diving into the minds of each of the commissioners, I think that was the one thing that really stood out as far as their decision to vote against it.
Fair enough.
If I may, just to make the board aware, number of, so, and items like this that are highly contested, we look at the number of people in opposition to see whether or not it requires a 4/5 vote by the board. This one did not meet that threshold. It met it in number of neighbors that were opposed to it, but based on acreage, they didn't meet the acreage requirement, so it would not require a supermajority.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion, or I'd entertain a motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I move that the board adopts the BOS resolution number 2023-063 to approve the rezone.
Hey, order. Point of order. Point of order. I understand emotions run high, but I would really sincerely ask for civility. Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that for vote.
You've heard that motion and second. Any other discussion or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. I didn't hear.
Approve. She votes to approve.
Okay, the ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered.
Point of order, please.
Point of order, please. Item passes 3-2, and we'll let you exit if you need to.
You just showed us what our representatives for our country are. They got paid.
I'm going to take just a 5-minute break if I could. We're going to recess for 5 minutes. Item number 54, Director Walsh.
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, this is the last one you have to hear from me on. This item, this item here is an appeal to on a notice to abate. I've actually got JC here with me. JC is the zoning code, or the zoning officer that has been managing this case. So I asked if she wouldn't come up and give a brief history, but just to lay the initial groundwork, this item is basically an appeal. So we issued a notice to abate. This item is an appeal on whether that is trash and debris that needs to be abated. So I'll turn the time over to JC.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. My name is J.C. Foss. I work for Mojave County Development Services. I am a zoning inspector senior. This particular case came in as a complaint to our offices. I opened this case and responded to inspect for the initial inspection. And good. How do we change it? Okay, thank you, Director Walsh. Sorry, my first time up here. I apologize. So we prepared this slideshow because I wanted you to see a little bit of what I encountered at my initial inspection. So we have clear definitions in the ordinance that we adopted 2020-07, which gives us the definitions for the trash and debris on the property. In this particular slide, you can clearly see we have loose trash and debris, garbage all over. You've got mattresses, you've got torn apart stuffing and carpets and trash and garbage. You have unsecured RVs. You've got styrofoam and broken plastic and chairs. I'll just kind of go through these quickly. Here you can see auto parts, vehicles with broken windows, stacks and piles of discarded metal and wood. You've got similarly here more, this is, as you can clearly see, almost above the fence line. This particular one, you can clearly see the broken out windows in the RVs. This is a trash trailer. This is the type of garbage that comes from your kitchen and your bathroom, as well as dilapidated furniture that's been sitting out in the elements, clothing, these types of items. Clearly, these are all health and safety issues. So based on that, I went ahead and issued here you see some tires. Obviously, all of these things are attractive, like for rodents, vectors, mosquitoes, etc. So I went ahead and posted the notice to abate. It's a 30-day time frame. It gives the owners the opportunity to respond to the notice and to clear up the violations. We post one copy, we photograph, we also have a certified letter that goes in the mail. While I was there, that's just a close-up, while I was there, I had the opportunity to speak with one of the occupants who exited the residence, and I kind of explained my reason for being there and what needed to occur. And he did indicate at that time that he was aware of the issue and that he would begin that process. This is a copy of the notice to abate. There's a posting copy, and there's the certified copy with a signed signature of one of the occupants of the residence. This was the appeal that we received in the mail. This is the spouse of the deeded recorded owner who we did verify as deceased per the Mojave County record. This was her appeal, basically stating that she doesn't have to clean up the trash because she doesn't believe it to be so and not belonging to her. This is a copy of the death certificate whereby it states that Ms. Terry Klaus, the signature on the appeal, is indeed the spouse of the deeded owner of record. And then in preparation for today, I went out last Friday and just took some updated photos to see if any of this might have been mitigated. And the property is in exactly the same shape. These photos are almost identical, obviously well over 30 days with the time that it took for us to schedule this appeal.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Johnson.
I'd make a motion to deny the appeal.
If I could just jump in real quick, I just want to see, is the appellant here? That would be, what was her name? I'm sorry.
Terry Klaus.
Is Terry Klaus here? I just have the record reflect that Terry Klaus is not here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll second that. You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the motion. The motion is to approve.
Supervisor Johnson made a motion to deny the appeal of the notice of appeal. Deny the appeal of notice to abate, excuse me.
Okay.
And I second it.
Chairman Lingenfelter, so just to be clear, that would allow us to continue forward with the abatement.
Okay.
Right.
Aye.
Thank you.
And just so you're clear.
What was that, Kay? And get, what did Mr. Walsh say?
I just was clarifying that the deny of the appeal would allow us to move forward with the abatement.
Proceed with the abatement, correct? Right.
And
Attorney Esplin.
I'll issue a written notice that of the court's, or of the board's findings today.
Okay, thank you. Item 55. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second? Second. For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item 56. Director Latosky. Looks.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. Under this item, staff is requesting the board consider to set May 1st, 2023, a public hearing to consider amendments to GVID policy and procedure memorandum 90-1, namely to consider increases to the existing water rates, which have been in place since 2018. Also, we're requesting changes to new connection fees. This will only affect new customers for connecting and establishing customer accounts with the district. And lastly, establishing a surcharge for the possibility of building a reserve fund for the construction of a new well number 3 in the Golden Valley Improvement District. So at this point, staff is only requesting the board consider and approve establishing a public hearing for these fee and rate increases.
Thank you, Director Latosky.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Question.
Second.
We have a motion and second. We also have Supervisor Gould, you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Latosky, when you charge people, when they cut the padlock off of the stopcock on their water service, do you then charge them for that water that they stole during that period of time?
Yes, we certainly look into it. We'll do our level best to kind of gauge what water usage was and attempt to bill the customer that actually had that property on account.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item 57. Director Acton.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. This item is asking the board to consider some code revisions to the Mojave County Procurement Code. I'm really available to answer any questions that you have. I've worked with the county attorney's office on these revisions. The most substantial changes have to do with adopting the state's threshold of $100,000 to be in compliance with various Arizona revised statutes. And modifications to our legal remedies section of our procurement code. This is in response to a few things that we've noticed where there are some flaws in our procurement code. And then I provided backup to you on all other revisions. I'm available if you guys have questions.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Johnson.
Say this is to get us up to date with the codes. Doesn't it just say we may go up to 100,000?
What it states, and actually I may lean on Attorney Esplin here, when we adopted the revisions in, I want to say 2011, we adopted formally the amount of the state's threshold. ARS 11, under the powers and duties of the board, I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. 11-254-01 states that we may adopt the threshold. If we do not adopt the threshold, then anything over $10,000 would require a formal procurement process. So right now we're not technically in compliance with that requirement. Making these revisions would put us in compliance with that requirement, and specifically saying that we're adopting the threshold set forth in ARS 41-253-35A will ensure that we remain in compliance with that requirement.
The changes you're making to the sole source, can you explain those to everybody?
So we're making very minor changes to the sole source, but what I think you're referring to is the addition of the competition impracticable. So I worked for the procurement department since 2009. I left for a little while and then came back. But essentially, the provisions in competition impracticable is how we have been using sole source as well. We've taken the approach, and we've been doing this now, let me do the math. Well, the original code was adopted in 2005, and my assumption from my training is that we were doing it before that as well. So probably about the last 18 years is that we were also allowing, basically saying when it's impractical to compete, we were treating that as a sole source. So prime examples of that would be, we use Tyler Technologies for Munis, for Eagle Recorder, for several software systems. It wouldn't be practical for the county to go out to bid every 5 years for a new ERP system or for a new recorder system. And so historically, we have treated that as a sole source, and that to go out to bid would be financially unfeasible for the county. Adding competition and practical allows us to be more transparent and says that those situations where there's a business need not to go out for competition, that it rises to a similar level as sole source, but it's not truly a sole source, where sole source procurements would be limited to truly those situations where there is only one provider for the service.
So we're going to sole source, not to, is that what you're saying?
What we're going to hopefully do by making these changes is drastically reduce the number of sole source procurements and treat some of those that we've been considering sole source as competition and practical, but it will rise to the same level that the sole source has, in that I will review it. It will require a written code determination. If it's over the adopted threshold, we would bring it to the board and say, board, here's all the research we've done and why we think it is best. It suits the county not to compete for this, even though other sources may exist to meet our need. We're wanting you to bless it, but we're not going to call it a sole source, where sole sources really should be limited to those situations where there is only one provider for the service. It's at adding another layer and being more transparent in how we've been treating those types of procurements.
You're asking us to do these changes. What happened to the reports we used to get? We haven't had a report since last September.
So the reporting format is something that we were doing reports under $10,000. I've actually been working with the county manager's office on a way to report to you in a way that makes sense and gives you the business decisions that you need. I will own that we haven't done any. I think our last one, we actually got reports to you through July of 2022, or through June of 2022. I've been working with the county manager to say, how do we present this so that the board is getting accurate reports on what they need information on? Quite frankly, with limitations of staff and the ARPA funding that has been coming, we've not had time to go back and pull those reports. After discussions with the county manager, all purchase decisions, all warrants and claims that when we've paid vendors are accounted for in the county, the financial report and the county manager's report. And so we were planning to try and backlog and get you a summary of reports, but if we didn't include that in this particular resolution, but if the board wants to add a reporting requirement to this resolution, I'd be open to that. My push would be $10,000, according to our procurement code, is sort of this arbitrary area where we're not tracking anything specific to $10,000. I would maybe ask the board to consider taking it to whatever that formal threshold is, any purchase between, at this point, we're going to say micro purchases would be $10,000, and anything between $10,000 and $100,000, it may make sense to report on now, where we would be saying, if these revisions are changed, that anything under $10,000, we're going to encourage as much competition as practical, but we would be willing to make those purchases with one quote. So if the board directs me to do reporting between 10 and 100,000, I'm fine with that. Realizing that we do have all the data available, it just takes a lot of staff time to compile those reports because we don't have a great system for tracking every single purchase. We're pulling from multiple areas to try and pull together the report, and part of this is it's meant to be purchases that the procurement director authorizes. We issue lots of purchase orders at a value of less than $50,000, but more than $10,000 based on previously approved board contracts. And so trying to weed through all of it and figure out what has the board already approved, what am I actually approving as the director. So any direction from the board on how you'd like me to report, I'll do that, knowing that I'm going to go back in time and get you an accurate report up to this point under the current code.
I guess though, with you saying well, we don't have the people to do this, and that's why we haven't been doing anything since last year. But now double our threshold. That's where I have a problem. If you can't get the reporting done now, why should we double it so we get no reporting at all? That's my problem, I guess. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
County Manager Elders.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Supervisor Johnson, thank you for your input. And I guess I wanted to jump in and point out the report that was used truly needed to be revamped. We have been, as Tara noted, exploring what better ways to report, and understanding that this is a small department consisting of about 6 individuals total, and we lost 2 of our senior members of this team just last October, November, January, I can't remember when. This department is going through everything it can to function and to deliver on the procurement needs of the county. Personally, I thought it would be good to bring this item to the board to update the code, and then with that, go back and revisit the reporting mechanism and bring back to you a template of how we will report. Our intent at the end of the day is to inform you and be transparent. So we think this order of delivery, of bringing this item to you first and then coming back to you with a template for the report, is a good way to go. We're doing the best with the resources that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson, other comments?
I understand what you're saying, but to me, you're saying, well, go ahead and change this, and then we'll do the job. I mean, to me, I believe it's the other way. We do the job first, and then we say, hey, we've done such a good job doing it this way, we'd like to move it on and expand it. But that's all.
Mr. Chairman.
County Manager Elders.
If I may, Supervisor Johnson, I want to just respond to the comment of do the job first. I truly believe we are doing the job, and we're delivering on the procurement needs for the county. The reporting, we are reporting through the county manager report these transactions, so you're seeing what is happening and what is being purchased. The code is really, these code updates are driven in statutes. It would be prudent for the board to help us clean that up, and then we will format the report, and we'll get your blessings on it, and we'll make sure it's done on the reporting cycles that the board expects them to be reported in. And again, no excuses. Appreciate your questioning and keeping us honest. And I appreciate the guidance that we're getting as well. Thank you.
Other comments?
Chairman Lingenfelter, if I may just add something.
Attorney Esplin.
Just a couple things to clarify. Procurement Director Acton is correct. We really need to address that threshold amount. That's an important part of that we do this. The other part is the competition impracticable section. I think every member here has experienced where they've said, how is this a sole source when you can think of other sources? And so I think over the years they've been trying to stick a round peg into a square hole, or a square, whatever you want to call it. And this solves that. You'll still have sole source, and it's just going to be in those very limited circumstances when it truly is a sole source. But now you have the competition impracticable that says, okay, there's a heightened scrutiny standard. We're going to look at this, but this falls into this competition impracticable standard. So that's kind of the important things that I think highlight these changes. So
thank you. I'd entertain a motion.
Chairman Lingenfelter, motion to approve.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Ayes appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Thank you, Tara. Item 58.
Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter. I've brought this item before the board where staff is recommending the approval of the sale of real property. The address is 2223 Swanson Avenue in Lake Havasu City. By way of reminder, initially there was discussion about trying to lease this property to Lake Havasu City. Lake Havasu City has a need for it. They need parking in that area. It's about an acre, I believe, is the size of the parcel. The county has owned it for some time now. The Lake Havasu City said, well, instead of leasing it, why don't we purchase it? And so we explained in order to purchase the property, it has to be at least 90% of the appraised value. So we got an appraisal. The board approved that appraisal, a board acquiring that appraisal, and we got that. This is 90% of the appraised value. This also includes the cost of the appraisal. It looks like a win-win for both parties. It provides for the taxpayers compensation for the sale of the property. It provides Lake Havasu City with the parking that they need. It's my understanding there is a representative here from Lake Havasu that can answer questions if necessary. And really, this is a positive thing for both parties. And for that reason, the County Attorney's Office is recommending approval.
Thank you. Anthony, you drove all the way up. Is there anything you want to say on behalf of the city of Lake Havasu City? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. If there's any other questions from the city's standpoint, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much, and we appreciate this.
Thank you.
Your credit limit cover this?
Chairman, members of the board, Supervisor Johnson, yes.
Thanks. Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item 59, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that item 59 be adopted.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 60, I don't believe, do we need an action on that, County Manager? Is that just an update or is that an action?
Yeah, the last part.
Oh, yes, there is, okay. I'll entertain a motion on item 60.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that item 60 be adopted.
Thank you.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Last but not least, we have Supervisor Schuster.
Get demoted.
I want to be a supervisor today, I can tell you that. Well, thank you for your time. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, county manager, county attorney, and of course our lovely, lovely clerk of the board. It is that time of year that I come before you to speak on budget. I've elected to present to you today in lieu of waiting until the upcoming budget hearing to allow additional time that may be needed as we move closer to finalizing a new fiscal year budget. Unfortunately, I will not be in attendance at the budget meeting in May. I will be out of state on a previously scheduled commitment, but I will have my staff present. They are well versed in the budget, and if you should have questions, they'd be happy to answer them at that point. And of course, I will always make myself available to you as a group, individually, if you have any further questions regarding today's proposal. I put together a very brief PowerPoint because I know Supervisor Johnson loves presentations. And we're just going to go through this as quick as possible. I know it's been a long day, and I know you want to get out of here, but this is very important, and I hope I can just gain your attention or keep your attention for a little bit here. Law enforcement is a highly stressful and demanding profession. Our deputies and detention officers put themselves at risk each day. We live in an unprecedented time where wearing a badge simply puts a target on one's back. It is a shame.
We ask our officers to hold themselves and the very ideals of law enforcement to the highest of standards, to remain professional and courteous at all times, and to provide top-notch law enforcement and public safety services. That's what the public expects. That's what the public deserves. I am very proud of my existing staff, and I have personally witnessed a tremendous increase in positive community relations, interactions, and involvement since I first took office in 2017. But I need you to understand that these brave men and women live in a constant state of heightened awareness, with extreme levels of stress when they're on duty. This often bleeds over into their personal lives. They need to decompress before they gear up to return to that high-stress environment, and this cycle continues. It's psychologically demanding, both mentally and physically. We ask them to make appropriate and wise decisions at all times, often with little to no time to even process the very events that are unfolding directly in front of them. This is where we hope and we pray that their experience and training kicks in, especially when dealing with assaults and life-threatening encounters. We are very fortunate here in Mojave County, and I've said this many times, we are very fortunate here in Mojave County to have the support, the vast support of the majority of our citizens. This is not the case in many areas across the country, but with this support comes the responsibility of not only providing top-notch law enforcement, but also having appropriate levels of funding to ensure that we have adequate numbers of trained and experienced staff to do so. We must not only recognize but prioritize the extreme importance of attracting high-quality officers and retaining our much-needed and experienced staff. This is where we are having great difficulty. And this presentation is designed to discuss the problems in detail, and I will offer up some options for resolution, and I would love to have an open discussion at the end. Okay, so what is our problem? Well, I kind of already talked about it. Our primary and most concerning issue is our continued inability to not only attract, but retain detention officers and deputy sheriffs. And what is the reason for this? Why is this happening now? I have never fared well with these. There we go. All right, I'm going to throw out the reasons, and these are not all inclusive, and we'll talk about each one. We do not pay competitive wages as compared to local surrounding agencies. That's the bottom line. I cannot state it any clearer than that. We have fallen woefully behind. I recognize in the past, and I do thank this board for your prior support and your continued support, we have made headway. But since COVID hit, we have fallen back, and we have fallen back hard. We have not offered a uniform allowance increase in decades. This is on me. Now, this is a very minor portion of our budget, very small piece of our budget, but it's very important to our staff because we provide the first set of uniforms when they're hired, and for the remainder of their career, they have to purchase and supply and maintain their own. And law enforcement equipment is very, very expensive. So I should have come before you years ago to make this minor correction, but in reality, I have been focused on the big picture, which continues to be attracting and retaining staff. We have seen tremendous negative changes in public safety. You're all elected officials. You know the plans. They aren't what they used to be as short as 8 years ago. In a nutshell, the plans have gone from a defined benefit to a defined contribution. Okay, it's still great to have a plan, but it just, I want to bring the point that this is one of the reasons that we're not attracting people like we used to. Paid time off is not adequate. As I mentioned earlier, law enforcement personnel work in a very high stress environment. It does take its toll mentally and physically, and study after study over the past 32 years of my career, and I can personally attest to this, have concluded that personnel need more time to decompress, they need more time off than in most other career fields. And then we can talk about burnout. This is real, folks. This is happening. This is a big part of why I'm in front of you today. Staffing shortages lead to increased workloads for the remaining staff. When we add mandatory overtime to that, and that may be coming very soon if we can't get a handle on what's happening, will lead to even less recovery time and a rise in that burnout. Common sense would tell you that that's going to lead to an even higher turnover rate. And we can't have this. This cannot happen. So these are kind of a few of the more prominent hurdles we're facing when it comes to hiring and retaining our staff. There's a lot more issues involved, but I think that'll paint a somewhat of a picture for you to understand what we're dealing with when we talk about being competitive in today's market. So why is it happening? There's a lot of factors. We've talked about it already today at the meeting. The economy. Workers are looking for higher paid jobs. Cost of living has increased substantially. We've all recognized the sharp and unprecedented rise in the cost of living. From housing to fuel to food, the list goes on and on. It is affecting and has affected everyone, and law enforcement personnel are not immune to it. Unfortunately, it can't be ignored. This is our new reality, and it must be taken for what it is. What about our applicant pool? Significantly less applicants are applying. Now, that's not just here in Mojave County, this is nationwide. Less and less interest is being shown in the law enforcement professions nationwide. It's disturbing to me. My time's gonna come and go. Who's gonna wanna do this job when I'm done? Who's gonna wanna keep you safe and our citizens safe? So it's something we must discuss. There is a negative perception on law enforcement. Unfortunately, there are bad apples in law enforcement. Now, we do our best to screen them out in the hiring process, but some of them do slip through the cracks. We certainly have no problem terminating them if they prove to be unworthy or fit, but unfortunately, the ones that do slip through the cracks are the ones that end up on the national news. We see their atrocious, often criminal behavior, something that I condone, or I certainly do not condone, something we all condemn is what I meant to say. No one dislikes a bad officer more than a good officer. It makes us all look bad. And I tell my staff that repeatedly. I am a reflection of them, they are a reflection of me, and it's more than just Mojave County and Arizona. This is nationwide. With this increase level, or with this negative perception, we have an increased level of danger. That's just kind of a given, folks. The world has changed. People see law enforcement very negatively. Whether it's true or not, I can stand here and tell you it's completely inaccurate. Okay, but that's what the perception is. And as a result, we've seen a rise in assaults against officers and deadly encounters over the past 5 to 6 years. Very, very disturbing. When we talk about retirement benefits, spoke on that earlier, same with PTO, so I'm not going to go down that road again, but it is a pressing factor. I'll just leave it at that. And then we have the generation shift. I do not, I guess, understand the newer generation. I don't know at what point in my career I became a dinosaur, but I guess the negative perception towards law enforcement, the danger associated, the salary, the benefits, we're just not piquing the interest of the younger generation. When I tested for deputy sheriff many years ago, I tested with probably 70, 80 other applicants. Out of that, you were put on a list if you were successful, and there might be 20 on that list. And you waited for your number to call, and you hoped your number would be called. We are running testing monthly now. We are receiving anywhere from 3 to 5 applicants. 3 to 4 of those are immediately cut because they can't pass a background. So it just really changed, and it's changed in a very quick and negative direction. Good candidates are simply in high demand. With less of applicants applying and even less successfully being accepted, our existing officers around the state, they have options. They have a lot of options. And we find that a lot of officers, unfortunately, and I frown on it, but it is happening, they will use this to their advantage. They will select to apply and be accepted with a smaller agency that pays less because there's a stronger need to get bodies on the street. And the minute they achieve that certification, they're on the hunt looking for a higher paying job. It's the training ground mentality. We've seen it ourselves. I'll cite one quick example. I hired one young man, would have been a great officer, really squared away. He came from Phoenix. The day he graduated the police academy, he resigned from the sheriff's office and went back down to Phoenix. That's a cost that we endured. Now, there's legislation, thankfully, to try and curb that. The state is trying to find a way to say, hey, look, if you jump ship, someone's going to pay for that. If it costs Mojave County money, the new hiring agency is going to have to reimburse that. But we're not there yet, and the most I can go after is the actual training cost, which is the academy cost, and that's a real small portion. We lose a big chunk to salary and ERE. Okay, so when we talk about working conditions, I'm not really talking about morale. Okay, morale is the downside of poor working conditions. We need to understand that the higher the vacancy rate, the more work is demanded from the remaining staff. And I think we all get that. I don't like the words mandatory overtime. I fear them because if we get to that point, we are going to cause extreme burnout and you are going to see even more resignations. And the trickle-down effect from that is going to be magnitudinal. It's going to be huge. Every time we lose one, that work doesn't go away. You talked about procurement. We're down a couple officers, 2 out of the 8 that were present. That's big. Well, we're down close to 45 in the jail, and we're creeping up towards 20 on the street. It needs to be corrected. Higher workloads lead to mandatory overtime. We talked about that. So what are some effects? Let's get real. I don't want to take up a whole bunch of your time, but here's the truth of it. It's going to affect public safety if not corrected. It's going to affect officer safety if not corrected. It's going to affect the safety and security of our adult detention facility. That is the truth of it. Public safety, officer safety, and the safety of the security in our jail, these are things that we cannot and I will not allow to be compromised. I need your help with this. Talk about litigation. Of course, that's a potential effect of all of this. Mistakes lead to lawsuits. Lawsuits lead to litigation. Litigation is costly. It's time consuming, even if it's unsuccessful. And if it's successful, we're talking about significant funding that can be granted. When we talk about response times and investigation times, they're linked. It's a very simple formula. High calls for service plus lower staffing levels equals longer response times. Well, the same holds true with investigations. Deputy sheriffs need time on scene to conduct investigations. We cannot and I will not allow us to go back to a time where we are simply a reporting agency. We are a law enforcement agency. We're an investigating agency. It is proven to work. We have reduced crime as a result, and we can't go back in time. And so again, I'm here today asking you to support us, and we'll get into a couple options here in just a second. Rise in criminal activity. Crime does not know boundaries. Criminals do not know boundaries. If there is a rise in activity, criminal activity in the unincorporated areas of the county, it's going to affect our cities and our communities, and vice versa. We're fortunate that we have such strong interagency relationships with all of our law enforcement partners. That's one thing I'm very proud of. We work well together. In fact, we had, today I found out we sent a couple of our deputies to another county to help cover their streets while they put to rest one of their own. Okay, so that's the type of law enforcement that I'm proud to be a part of, and that's what we want to continue here in Mojave County. Yearly increases Each year, we recognize increases to basically to the cost of doing business. We see our contracts go up. We see the cost of pretty much across the board through all departments. They will go up in some shape or fashion. These are simply deemed the cost of doing business. We don't like it. I know you don't like it. You have to control the budget, okay, and it gets expensive. A good example is the health care in our county jail. I have no control over this. I don't seek out the contract, but it is necessary. In the past 3 years, we have seen a 55.5% increase. It's a lot of money, $1.8 million. And it goes up, so the company that contracts us can afford to pay their staff top-notch wages. Can I say that? Top-notch wages, because this is kind of the way it was explained to me, we're kind of in a hole. Mojave County is not a good place to receive such health care because no one wants to agree to the contract. It's very hard to get staff to come here. So we pay for that. We're paying for their staff to come here. And that's how it is. We recognize these increases are costly, but they are necessary. So I'm asking you today to look at competitive wages as being necessary. I'm asking you to look at competitive salaries as being the cost of doing business. After all, I think we can all agree that our employees are our greatest asset. And if we can't keep them, shame on us, and I promise you other agencies will be happy to take them. Here's the salary comparison that I'd like to discuss today. These are agencies locally and bordering us. This is the starting wage that we're up against. I'll give you a second to look at that. This is either higher date or after the academy, but these are all year one wages. As you can see, $27.5, $30, $28.5, $31, and we're down at the very bottom. We pay $22.48 an hour. GEO, down the street, the local prison, or the private prison, really our main competitor, they start at $26 an hour. We're at $19 an hour. We've lost many of our dedicated and valued staff to other agencies and to places like GEO because they have families to feed. They have to look out for themselves first. And I've had them tell me, I love it here, Sheriff. I'm honored to work for the county, but I can't afford it anymore. I could take off this gray uniform and put a blue one and live in my same house and do the same job and make 20 grand more a year. Well, how do I answer that? So I'll pose this question. Looking at these numbers, where would you choose to start your career? I'm hiring today. I need you all. Gene, I need you to come back. Buster, well, we don't want you back, but the point being is we are trying to attract high quality deputy sheriffs and detention officers, and we have to have something to offer. We have to be marketable. Another comparison slide. This kind of gives you the percentages. I'll just pop them up here. Okay, so to be on par with these other agencies, and you can see they're anywhere from 22 to 30, almost 32% higher than we are. And this is strictly their salary budgets. I'm not talking about operational budgets at all today. To be competitive and to be on par, I'm asking you today for a 5.4 increase to my salary budget. Well, Sheriff, how are we going to do that? How are we going to get there? We're going to go over some options now, and I'll just kind of walk through each one with you. There's a total of 4. Option 1, this is our existing budget. This is the current budget that we're working under. Can you all see it?
She's watching on Teams.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. In the booth, can I get some help with that? All right, well, while they're working on it, I'll explain it to you. So option 1.
Figure it out now if you need.
We're good now?
No.
Okay. While they're working on that. Option one is to do nothing. Okay, this option is to move forward with the next fiscal year with our current budgeted amount, and I'll tell you that amount, $27,800,000. That's the total amount for the sheriff's office and jail personnel budget, $28,800,000 or $800,000. I can tell you it is not sufficient to sustain operations. Oh, they're really moving me around here. Are you seeing it now, folks?
It's postcard size now.
All right, well. I don't know what they're doing. So you don't have it on your screen yet?
It's just too small.
Too small? All right, let me try presentation. How about now? All right, well, whatever. This happens to me every time, drives me nuts. Option one is no change. Option one sticks with last year's budget. Not recommending this. This is the kicking the can mentality that we've talked about for so long. This particular budget is going to add burden to the existing staff, and it's going to continue to unfortunately unfold to where we have more turnover and higher burnout. Okay, so option number two. This is the budget I submitted earlier in the year. This budget is identical to option number one with two changes. I increased the overtime for the jail, and I increased the overtime for the sheriff's office. Second change was I added in the increase to the uniform allowance that we talked about earlier. Okay, this one is not viable long-term. This is where we say, hey, we can throw overtime at it. We can throw overtime at it, and we can get through another year, but it requires a sharp increase, and it's nothing more than a stopgap measure. This is not a solution, but it is an option. Option three is the one that I know you're going to support and love. This is a 25% across the board. Okay, this is $6 million, and this is a $6 million increase. Now, as much as this option is ideal in the sense that it will correct our deficiencies, of course, I will not recommend it based on cost. This is $6 million higher than what our current budget is. So what I am recommending to you today is option four, and I can get all these to you if you don't have them and you can't see them. Option four is $1.5 million higher than what we are paying today. That's the 5.4% I talked about. This is the one I'm recommending. It is the most cost-effective option. Unfortunately, this will require me to freeze 8 more detention positions and 4 more deputy sheriff positions, which I do not like doing, but I felt the need to bring something to the table, but I'm running out of the ability to do this. So those are the 4 options. One thing I want to point out is for the past 7 fiscal years, I have diligently overseen my budget, and I've never gone over. In fact, each year I return millions of dollars to the county coffers. This isn't a good thing, at least not in my opinion. In order to return millions of dollars in each budget year, a large amount of salary savings must be present. How do we have salary savings? We have vacancies, and we have a lot of vacancies. I have vacancies because we don't pay competitive wages, and therefore we continue to have a difficult time attracting and retaining our staff. Here's the irony. I cannot use the salary savings, even though it might be millions, $2 million, $3 million each year. I cannot use the savings to increase wages because of the way the county conducts business, and I get it. I can't guarantee how much I'm going to turn in each year, so I don't think we're able to put it out for permanent increases. So instead, I stand before you today and I say, just so you know, folks, we're running out of time here. The budget's coming to an end. I've got a tremendous amount of vacancies. By the way, I'm going to give you back $4 million. Wasn't able to spend it. And then tell you in the next breath, but I need more money. Does anybody else see the irony in that, the madness in that? Because it's very disturbing to me. If salary savings were to roll over each year, if from day one I didn't return that which I saved, we'd have close to $20 million right now, and I wouldn't be standing here. be able to take care of our issues for many years to come. But it is the process, and I get that, but I think it's at some point worthy of a discussion. To turn back money only to turn around and ask for more money is asinine. It really is. But let's put away salary savings. I think I'll close here with the understanding, I will get to you if you can't see them, the 4 options. Just rehash them real quick. Number 1, status quo, keep doing what we're doing, destined to fail, in my opinion. Number 2, throw overtime at it. Let's get these people working. Less staff doesn't matter. Make them work overtime. We're going to lose more people doing that, and it is not cost effective whatsoever. Option 3, 25% across the board. $6 million. I know we probably can't get there. Don't recommend it, but that is an option. And the option, again, that I'm going to present and stand behind is option 4, and that's a modification of our existing budget. And believe me, I've dissected our budget, and I can tell you there's no more fat on the bone. There really is no more fat on the bone. So I'm going to close by saying this, and then I'll open it up to questions. As sheriff, I've been elected and entrusted by the citizens of Mojave County to provide top-notch law enforcement mandated service. What kind of leader would I be if I did not stand up here and fight for my employees? What kind of sheriff would I be if I did not stand up here and fight for our citizens? That's why I do this. Don't think I enjoy doing this every year, coming back saying we need more, more, more. But that's the truth of it. That's the simple truth of it. And we have to take time, and we have to sit down, and we have to prioritize our needs to determine what needs to be done moving forward, or you're going to see a whole lot more of me. Each year, we recognize an increase to our county population. Okay, population continues to rise. More businesses are coming, more people are settling down, and that's a good thing. Yet we, in the county, continue to recognize a reduction in crime. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. And I'd love to tell you that's simply a result of me being our tremendous sheriff. That's why this is happening. But the truth of the matter is we have amazing employees, people I rely on, people I count on. These employees are dedicated, and they believe in the values that I've instilled. We don't want to lose them. They're the reason we're here today, because they put in the hard work. I want to refer back to my mention of the increase in the jail health care, almost $2 million. We don't like it, none of us do, but we recognize it as the cost of doing business. Again, our employees are necessary, and they are the cost of doing business. And if you don't see it that way, I don't know what much more I can say to that. In order for us to continue to provide exceptional service, I require adequate staffing levels that are compensated at a rate that is fair and consistent with the going local market. I will not jeopardize the safety of the public, nor will I jeopardize the safety of my staff to save a buck. I'm not going to do it. I will do whatever is needed to ensure that we have adequate staffing levels, both in the jail and on the street, and to provide necessary law enforcement and public safety services. I've done everything in my power, and please hear me when I say this, I have done everything in my power to reduce the costs in our personnel budget. I have lost sleep over this. I've dissected this budget for the past 3 months. I've gone through it line item by line item, and there is no more to trim. I've even agreed to freeze additional positions. This goes against my plan for growth, and it goes against my philosophy as sheriff. But I've come to the realization that if I can't fill the numerous vacancies that I have, that I'm willing to bring this option to the table to show you that I'm doing all I can. And I hope we don't have to do that, but I'm willing to do that to make this budget work. So I presented the options. Each one does require an increase, one shape, form, or the other. I have and will continue to be a good steward of the people's money budgeted to my office. I've never exceeded my budget. I don't plan on ever doing so. And I want to say this, I do enjoy my working relationship with all of you. I know I get up here and goof around once in a while, but in reality, I understand and I recognize what a tremendous responsibility you all have. I wouldn't want your job for a second. You're responsible ultimately for the entire county budget each year. So now I'm going to take questions and simply say that I'm going to put my faith in this board, that come the budget meeting in May, working with the staff that we have, we can accomplish what needs to be done. So thank you for your time, and I will open up to questions, comments, or dialogue.
Thank you, Sheriff Schuster. Comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, can you back up to what caused the increase in health care for inmates?
From what I was told, Chairman, Supervisor Gould, from what I was told in speaking with our jail commander, they had great difficulty exploring options to get people willing to offer a contract to Mojave County. We had an old service that was very poor. It was not providing our needs. We fought with that service. When it came up for new contract, we had one company apply. I think we've been there with them now for 2 or 3 years, and each year we see a steady increase. And again, the concept of being in a black hole, it's very hard to get resources to come to Mojave County, because you have to understand, we run medical around the clock in the jail. We have full-time nurses on all shifts and doctors. It's very expensive, and I think they get paid a premium to work out of this area.
So it's that and a lack of competition. No one else is willing to bid?
Correct.
So that's in the in-jail health service, not when the inmates go to the hospital?
That's just in-jail health service.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Of course.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Other comments?
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Johnson.
are we going to look at privatizing the jail?
I'd be happy, Supervisor Johnson, to look at privatizing the jail, and I'd love to have that discussion. I don't know that it'd be a cost savings, but I would have no problem turning it over to a private industry. The only issue we have is by law I'm mandated to still run that jail, so we'd have to figure out the limitations. Prisons are different than jails. We'd have to look at the statutory liabilities there and requirements, but sure, it's worth discussion.
I think that would save us a tremendous amount of money if someone wanted to.
Yeah.
Supervisor Bishop.
Good afternoon, Sheriff. What about a consideration of a jail tax district? Many of the counties that you compared us to have such a tax, and that's how they're able to provide better salaries, I believe. Have you explored that option at all?
We have. We're actually in discussion now, and we've looked into it in pretty length for over the last year or so. We are still trying to figure out the viability and the timing. Of course, it's going to require a vote of the people. I think jail district tax are very valuable. There are some stipulations. It's not a free-for-all. If we had that ability to adopt one tomorrow, you'd still be on the hook for paying the actual expenses that we're paying to date. You can't just say, oh, good, we don't have to pay the jail anymore. There are still costs associated. So we could sit down at any point and get into detail on that, but there is value to it, but that's not going to happen overnight.
Okay, and then another consideration that's being discussed on the state level for the next legislative year is the possibility of doing away with the constables statewide and giving that money to the sheriffs to hire more civil deputies. Your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are simple. I'm going to do everything in my power to run a tight ship and make sure that law enforcement and public safety services are handled. How we get to the point of financing it, that's why you get paid the big bucks. I'm going to leave those options to you. If we were to take over the civil division, if we had to add that responsibility to the constable, yes, I'd need more staff. But again, the concern today is the actual wages that we're paying, not so much the juggling of staff, but the great points, absolutely great points.
Actually, I think your salary is double what mine is, so.
I do double the work.
What are the city's salaries for their police officers in Mojave County compared to ours?
Let me go back to it. See if we can get this work.
I think you were comparing county to county, but.
No, they were mixed. I apologize.
It was bad.
They're significantly higher. I think the closest was the Lake Havasu Police Department, and they were 22% higher than us, but I'd like to show you the actual figures, give you a little more time to look at that. Okay, so yeah, we've mingled border counties, Yavapai and Coconino. Is this on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank goodness. So you see Lake Havasu PD, their starting is 27.5 roughly. Bullhead's $1 higher than that. DPS, it's just crazy, but they're the ones you see running around town, the highway patrol. And
Is Kingman on this? I only see half a screen. So.
no, I didn't put anyone who's in the same boat as us. That's for their chiefs to worry about. But,
So they're low as well?
yeah, they're comparable to us. I don't know if they're lower or higher, but it's not anywhere near these other ranges.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? I hope. Okay.
Yes.
Supervisor Angus.
Years ago, when we couldn't give raises, we gave more PTO. And that came back to haunt us, and we changed it back. So your officers, what are you hearing? Is there one that would outweigh the other? Would they rather have more PTO to make up for some of the, not getting it in their salary? I mean, there's a balance. Can you juggle that a little?
I would answer that, Supervisor Angus, by saying we're looking right now at what is offered down the road. So if the agency next door pays this rate that you're looking at and they offer higher paid time off, these are benefits that we have to be very aware of. Yes, they all want more paid time off. We have lost the opportunity to bring in 2 very seasoned, very professional officers who made it all the way up to my desk to where I was going to hire them till they saw our PTO and they had to back out because they were coming from agencies where they were getting a higher level. And it's not to say that the sheriff's office should be treated any different than any other employee, but I'd be neglectful if I didn't tell you that the requirement for time off is heightened in this profession. Okay, that's speaking from my own experience. If you work in these type of environments over time, you go from code yellow to code orange all day long. Our ex-law enforcement, you guys know this, and then over the end of your week, you get home, you're spent. You literally want to sleep your first day away. You just don't have the energy. And so we say, well, why is this? Well, that's why the studies were done. They're saying that stress is not healthy. And we need to make sure we give them enough time to decompress.
But just for my edification, the other comparable departments, how do they line up with PTO?
Everyone is higher than us. And I can get you the list to make it easy.
Yeah,
so
I'd
you
like
can
to
actually
see
compare
that,
apples to
actually.
oranges.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation today, Sheriff. I think one thing is clear, that we need a long-term solution, clearly. And what that is, it remains to be seen. I mean, definitely looking into privatization, definitely looking into a sales tax jail district perhaps, which I know that there's a maintenance of effort provision. You can't stop funding out of your general fund what you're funding right now today, but it's part of a long-term, it would be part of a long-term solution where you could address exactly this stuff, salary, wages, equipment, things like that. It would be in the future as part of a long-term solution, something that wouldn't be 100% on the backs of our taxpayers. I mean, if it was a sales tax type of a deal, we know 100% of that is going to go into our law enforcement. I know that you guys police our lakes, our river, along, the summer months. We have droves and droves of Californians and everybody else coming to recreate, let alone all the other stuff that's going on. And then you've got what's going on, with the growth up in the southern Utah, northern Mojave County area, which that area is also pretty hot right now as well. So something that we should seriously look at, but we have to find a long-term solution and try to get away from patches and Band-Aids and things like that. So.
Chairman, thank you very much. Members, thank you very much. I'm going to end with this one statement, just so I'm clear, so everybody understands what I'm trying to say. We have submitted this budget, the revised one. This is the one you'll be looking at as you move forward. So that's why it was important for me to get before you today, so you understand where we went from last year's budget to this year's budget. And I will send over to each of you the backup material that we couldn't produce today because of computer errors. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No action on that, so we're adjourned. Thank you.